Chapter 362. The 9 characters were distributed on a mountain wall that was narrow at the top and wide at the bottom. It cannot be guaranteed to be very neat. This was not a stone tablet, and there was no requirement for the characters to be of the same size. Therefore, Wang Sheng happily arranged them in a way that resembled a comic book. They were of different sizes, well-proportioned, yet beautiful. Soon, he simulated them in his soul space. The old Taoist asked Wang Sheng to start. After pondering for a long time, Wang Sheng finally decided to start. According to the old Taoist instructions, Wang Sheng took out the lightest hammer and chisel. After getting ready, he came to the front of the mountain wall. Of course, it was impossible to carve in midair, so Wang Sheng first used a set of climbing tools that he had made later. A grappling hook with a rope swung a few times. After it left his hand, the grappling hook accurately hooked onto the top of the cliff. Wang Sheng pulled the rope. After feeling safe, he threw a second one. One rope was used as a suspension rope, and the other as a safety rope. This was Wang Sheng's cautious instinct. He had to be careful when working at high altitude. The old Taoist looked at all this with a smile in his eyes. He had no intention of helping. He really wanted to see whether or not Wang Sheng would be able to pull this off. This place was actually very close to the core. Strictly speaking, it was already within the core circle. There was a special formation protecting some of the auras within, which was why the martial will and the mountain wall had been able to be maintained until now. After simulating the distribution of the characters, Wang Sheng climbed up and basically did not waste any time to arrange anything. He moved directly to the starting point of the first character, took out the hammer and chisel, and put the chisel against the mountain wall. Then he swung the hammer. Ding! Wang Sheng swung the hammer and hit the bottom of the chisel. Based on Wang Sheng's experience when he was carving the Elder Supreme Elder statue, this hammer strike would leave a mark on the stone wall that he had envisioned. This was Wang Sheng's confidence in his carving skills. Unfortunately, things did not go as he wished. Pong! An inexplicable counterattack came from the mountain wall, directly sending Wang Sheng, along with his hammer and chisel, flying backwards. Suspended in the air, even if Wang Sheng had great strength, he would not be able to resist this sudden force. Fortunately, he had quick reflexes. He tightened his grip and grabbed the rope that was suspending his body. Crack! The rope, which was at least 3 times the weight of Wang Sheng's body, suddenly snapped, and Wang Sheng's body still flew out uncontrollably. Fortunately, Wang Sheng was cautious and prepared an extra safety rope. Although one rope was broken, there was still another one. The length of the rope was a few meters longer than the original one. This safety rope allowed Wang Sheng to avoid falling off the cliff. After swinging in the air for a while, he was slammed back onto the mountain wall. When he was close to the mountain wall, Wang Sheng stretched out his hand and used the Tai Chi unloading technique to easily climb onto the mountain wall. Quickly slipping down the safety rope, Wang Sheng walked to the side of the old Taoist, who was holding back his laughter, and asked, "You expected it?" "Of course." The old Taoist looked at Wang Sheng and couldn't help but laugh. "What can I do?" Wang Sheng ignored the old Taoist's smirk and asked seriously, "I don't have any." The old Taoist finally held back his laughter and replied in Wang Sheng's unhappy tone, "The Buddhist incantation of 9 words is, in the end, a different way of using spiritual qi. You have a deeper understanding than me. Try using the spiritual qi of the Buddhist incantation of 9 words to resist that force." Wang Sheng looked at the stone wall again and pondered in his heart. It was not a big deal to make a fool of himself in front of the old Taoist. Many people wanted to act like a clown in front of the old Taoist to make the old Taoist happy, but they couldn't do it. The point was that the old Taoist said to use the Buddhist incantation of 9 words to resist the power of the mountain wall. Starting again, Wang Sheng did not climb directly to the top of the mountain. Instead, he stood at the foot of the mountain wall and tried it. Lin Bingdo moved forward in a formation. In the soul space, the small person with combat consciousness began to simulate the spiritual qi operation and effect of the Buddhist incantation of 9 words. Except for the 3 words that Wang Sheng had not yet mastered, Every word was broken down and understood by the small person with combat consciousness. The first word was, of course, Lin. When used on oneself, it was to calm the mind and strengthen the will. When used on others, it could also have a positive effect. But if Wang Sheng wanted to, he could also use it the other way around. When Wang Sheng shouted out the word Lin, how to use the sound waves to cause the spiritual qi to resonate and affect the soul space, all of this was tested by the small person with combat consciousness on each clone. Because it was a word that Wang Sheng had a basic grasp of, the results of the test were very good. The small person with combat consciousness quickly grasped it. In the soul space, another small person in slow motion clearly demonstrated the way the spiritual qi operated from inside to outside and the effect it had. The clone of the small person with combat consciousness instantly became translucent, enough for Wang Sheng to fully feel the entire process. After that, the miniature combat consciousness puppet simulated the mountain wall and displayed the force of the recoil that Wang Sheng had received earlier. Next was to use this word to attack the mountain wall from all directions and angles. Just the word Lin, the small person with combat consciousness simulated it no less than 1,000 times. On this side, while Wang Sheng simulated it in the soul space, the outside performance was Wang Sheng standing in front of the mountain wall, his hand stroking the mountain wall as he fell into deep thought. The old Taoist looked at this scene and did not disturb Wang Sheng. He sat not far away and watched. With his cultivation, he did not need to get close to the mountain wall. He could feel the power contained in it by touching it. To be honest, this level of residual power was not earth-shattering to the old Taoist. What piqued the old Taoist's interest was how this power was used in the beginning. How was it able to slice the entire mountain with one slash? What he had to consider was not how to fight against this residual power, but how to deduce how the owner of this power had made this attack. The focus was different, so the two people's thinking angles were also different. The old Taoist also wanted to know how Wang Sheng, with his cultivation, relied on the power of the 9 words incantation to fight against the force on the mountain wall. Wang Sheng closed his eyes. The 8 small people with combat consciousness in the soul space were like 8 overclocked high-speed CPUs, calculating and simulating crazily. Different angles, different amounts of spiritual qi, different methods, and even the hammer and chisel were calculated. Almost every minute, there would be a method that was not calculated well. At this time, Wang Sheng had completely understood why the old Taoist cultivation was obviously higher than his, but his understanding and mastery of the 9 words incantation could not be compared to his. Even if the small people with combat consciousness did not participate in the simulation calculation, Wang Sheng had a biggest advantage that the old Taoist could not compare with. Wang Sheng's soul space now had the legendary magical power of the 4 sons of the dragon. This was something that the old Taoist could not catch up with. Chapter 363. After coming to this world, the thing that Wang Sheng couldn't understand the most was the original soul. Wang Sheng could understand the spiritual qi in the acupoints as the internal strength of the acupoints, but Wang Sheng didn't know what the original soul represented. However, this didn't stop Wang Sheng from using the power of his original soul to do many things that others couldn't. Just like how many people in this world didn't understand these things, they could still raise their cultivation to a jaw-dropping level. The simulation speed of the combat consciousness avatar was simply unimaginable. Even with the cultivation of the old Taoist, he couldn't understand it. He also couldn't imagine how amazing the martial arts that had been strengthened by the combat consciousness avatar would be. On the other hand, the fact that the 8 avatars of the combat consciousness avatar could simulate a single word of the 9 syllables mantra at full speed for several hours was enough to show how normal it was for the old Taoist to not be able to completely grasp it. After a few hours, Wang Sheng was already sitting on the ground, but he still couldn't simulate a more effective method. Wang Sheng, on the other hand, kept using the confrontation formula on himself. Other than cultivating the confrontation formula that the combat consciousness avatar had strengthened, he was also constantly trying to calm his mind and firm his will. No matter how powerful the combat consciousness avatar was in the end, Wang Sheng still had to rely on himself. This was the conclusion that Wang Sheng came to through the number of avatars of the combat consciousness avatar. Wang Sheng could casually split into 1024 little Qi 1 and little Tao Dai, but the combat consciousness avatar could only split into 8 avatars. This was the limit, and it was the limit that Wang Sheng had limited. Every time Wang Sheng used the confrontation formula, he was actually demonstrating it to the combat consciousness avatar. At the same time, he was also making some slight adjustments according to the analysis of the combat consciousness avatar to confirm the effect. If he had to give a precise definition of this method, Wang Sheng could use dual cultivation to describe it. Of course, this wasn't dual cultivation in the ordinary sense of cultivation, but a dialectical relationship between theory and practice. Theory guided practice, and in turn, practice would influence theory to make correct adjustments and keep pace with the times. Wang Sheng kept thinking, and the old Taoist did not rush him. Ever since Wang Sheng carved the statue of the Three Pure Ones single-handedly, the old Taoist believed that Wang Sheng was not a problem at all. Moreover, the old Taoist himself really wanted to see how he could use the Buddhist incantation of 9 syllables to deal with the force of the mountain wall. Speaking of which, there's also a bit of selfishness from the old Taoist. Although the old Taoist had gained a lot of insight into the Buddhist incantation of 9 words by himself, his progress was slow. The old Taoist could not see Wang Sheng's cultivation. If Wang Sheng were to use it, the old Taoist would not be able to feel it so directly. On the contrary, on this mountain wall, the old Taoist saw a possibility that would allow him to observe it more carefully. This area was encompassed by some kind of special formation, causing both the martial will and the remnant force on the mountain wall to be maintained for a very long time. There would also be an amplification effect. Otherwise, it would be too exaggerated to be able to sense that powerful martial will from several hundred leagues away. When Wang Sheng used the Buddhist incantation of 9 syllables to attack this mountain wall, the old Taoist could make use of this amplification effect to observe and sense the process and technique of Wang Sheng's exertion of force from a bystander's point of view. This would be beneficial to the old Taoist in deepening his understanding of the Buddhist incantation of 9 syllables. Sometimes cultivation was like this. Even though Wang Sheng had already performed the effects of the Buddhist incantation of 9 syllables on the old Taoist, and the old Taoist had experienced it personally, there were times when something was lacking. At this moment, if one were to look at it from a bystander's point of view, they might have a brand new understanding. This was the logic of the stones of another mountain can be used to improve jade. The old Taoist did not explain this logic to Wang Sheng, and the old Taoist also believed that even if he were to tell Wang Sheng about it, Wang Sheng would not have any objections. The two of them had gotten to know each other by chance, but their temperaments were very congenial. There was no need to be open and honest with each other to maintain this relationship. It was just like how the old Taoist had made things difficult for Wang Sheng before telling Wang Sheng what he wanted to know. However, he had still tailor-made a cultivation method for Wang Sheng after all. It was also like how Wang Sheng had told the old Taoist about the Buddhist incantation of 9 syllables and the first few chapters of the Tao Te Ching without even thinking about it. There was no need for the two of them to hide anything, but there was no need to explain some things either. As expected, Wang Sheng did not let the old Taoist down. After sitting in front of the mountain wall and touching it for 3 days and 3 nights, Wang Sheng finally opened his eyes and stood up. After eating and drinking, Wang Sheng greeted the old Taoist and did not do anything else. He just lay down and slept for a long time. After sleeping for a whole day and night, he woke up with 100 times more energy. This time, Wang Sheng did not hang a rope to start carving from the top of the mountain. Instead, he chose to carve from the foot of the mountain. He only needed to carve out the Buddhist incantation of 9 syllables. There was no requirement for the order or the size of the characters. Everything was actually for the sake of a more perfect mastery of the Buddhist incantation of 9 syllables. Lin. Before Wang Sheng swung the hammer down, he coordinated with the movements of his hands and shouted this word in time. When the old Taoist saw this action and heard this word, his eyes could not help but light up. Sensing the coordination of Wang Sheng's hammer, chisel, and spiritual qi, he almost could not help but cheer. The first word of the Buddhist incantation of 9 syllables was to calm the mind and firm the will. When Wang Sheng said it, a wave of spiritual qi just happened to lightly touch the force on the mountain wall below the chisel. That force immediately bounced back to the extreme and began to shrink again. The chisel also happened to exert force at this time, and a fist-sized piece of the mountain wall was instantly chiseled off. The movement, timing, intensity, and the coordination of the spiritual qi of the Buddhist incantation of 9 syllables directly performed an exquisite and peerless show of tacit cooperation in front of the old Taoist. This chisel directly made the old Taoist slap the table and praise it. He blurted out, "Good." After the first successful chisel, the next step was simple. It was nothing more than a process of practice making perfect. Every time Wang Sheng hammered, chiseled, and recited the Lin formula, it allowed Wang Sheng to have more control over his new understanding of the Lin formula, more experience, and more perfection. There were 9 words on such a huge mountain wall, and each word was about 500 feet wide and about the same height. A single word required Wang Sheng's full concentration to chisel thousands of times to complete it. When Wang Sheng followed the simulation results in the original soul space and carved the first complete word neatly and delicately on the corner of the mountain wall, it could be said that Wang Sheng's understanding of the Lin formula had risen to another level. On the giant monument in the original soul space, the word was already as bright as a small sun, and it began to dazzle. Chapter 364. While Wang Sheng was overjoyed, the old Taoist, who had been watching from the side, was so surprised that he almost couldn't speak. When Wang Sheng spared no effort in demonstrating it thousands of times, no matter how slow-witted the old Taoist was, he could see the profoundness behind it. As soon as Wang Sheng stopped, the old Taoist priest couldn't hold himself back anymore and started practicing. He was afraid of disturbing Wang Sheng before, but now that he didn't have to worry about it, he was itching to practice. The old Taoist practiced well. After practicing dozens of times on himself, the old Taoist immediately targeted Wang Sheng and tried it on Wang Sheng's body. Wang Sheng was completely focused on carving and using the confrontation formula thousands of times. He was already exhausted. At this moment, the old Taoist priest was still forcefully experimenting on Wang Sheng's body, trying to boost Wang Sheng's mental state. Wang Sheng fiercely flicked his middle finger at the old Taoist priest several times. It was obvious that the old Taoist didn't understand what Wang Sheng's middle finger meant, but he could tell from Wang Sheng's expression that Wang Sheng was unhappy. However, the old Taoist was in high spirits. He didn't care about Wang Sheng's little displeasure. He grabbed Wang Sheng and asked, "How do you feel?" Wang Sheng lowered his head and pondered for a moment. The old Taoist was waiting with hope, like a primary school student who had handed in his homework and was waiting for the teacher to judge him. His pure heart was completely revealed. Yes, Wang Sheng finally nodded. He had just felt the effect of the old Taoist confrontation formula. It was already at the level of Wang Sheng before he carved the mountain wall. The old Taoist was indeed the old Taoist. His comprehension ability was strong, and his progress was fast. Wang Sheng couldn't help but give him a thumbs up. Just by relying on Wang Sheng's demonstration of a few thousand times, he was able to raise his level from the most basic stage to this level. It was impossible not to admire him. Wang Sheng secretly admired the old Taoist, but the old Taoist also praised Wang Sheng in his heart. The old Taoist could clearly see what level Wang Sheng was at before and what level Wang Sheng was at now. Wang Sheng had only spent 3 days and 3 nights comprehending the confrontation formula in front of the cliff face. Yet, he had managed to raise his comprehension of the confrontation formula to this level. He could not help but prostrate himself in admiration. It was only the first word, but it made the two of them excited. Wang Sheng was excited. The old Taoist method was really useful, and the old Taoist realized that he had gained more. Before they finished carving the 9 symbolic words, the two of them didn't want to leave this area. Fortunately, the two of them had brought sufficient supplies. Moreover, the old Taoist was definitely willing to go out to hunt when necessary. The two of them built a wooden house in front of the mountain wall and officially stayed there. The confrontation formula alone took Wang Sheng more than 5 days. Even if he used the same amount of time on average for the rest of the words, it would still take more than 40 days. Moreover, there were still 3 words that he hadn't completely understood, so he needed more time. A wooden house could also make the two of them live more comfortably. On this point, both Wang Sheng and the old Taoist had something in common. They didn't want to make do if they could live comfortably, especially if they stayed for a long time. Living comfortably and resting better would definitely yield twice the results with half the effort. This was also in the category of sharpening a knife to cut firewood. According to Wang Sheng's original plan, he wanted to first carve the 5.5 words that he had mastered, and then slowly study the remaining 3 words. However, when Wang Sheng saw the effect of the confrontation formula, he changed his mind. He decided to master the 9 symbolic words one by one in order. If he didn't understand them, he would discuss it with the old Taoist until he understood them. Since the 9 symbolic words were arranged in this order, there must be a reason for it. Wang Sheng didn't know what the reason was, but it was definitely better to interpret them in order than to mess up the order. Previously, Wang Sheng didn't know and only understood those words by accident. Now that he had such conditions for cultivation, and he had the noble and virtuous old Taoist by his side, why didn't he follow the order? After preparing everything, Wang Sheng and the old Taoist priest only began the second step after making sure that everything was in order and that they ate, drank, defecated, and slept comfortably. Just like the first word, the second word, Wang Sheng had already mastered it. Relatively speaking, the battle awareness avatar was much simpler to simulate, just like the confrontation formula. It only needed to optimize it, and there was no need to derive it from the beginning. While Wang Sheng was thinking, the old Taoist definitely couldn't see anything. It just so happened that he could concentrate on the power system on the mountain wall, and there was no delay. Wang Sheng knew that the army formula could strengthen one's physique and increase one's lifespan. It also had the function of smoothing the meridians and regulating the body. When used in battle, apart from increasing one's basic physical fitness, it could also provide the ability to resist attacks and resist injuries. According to the order, the confrontation formula strengthened one's spirit, while the army formula strengthened the body. In this aspect of strengthening, the battle awareness avatar was still operating at full speed. The 8 clones simulated frantically. Not only did they simulate the strengthening of the body, they also simulated the effects of the enemy's attacks. Not only did they simulate from all aspects and angles, they didn't forget to destroy and adapt to the power of the mountain wall. In short, it was another time-consuming and laborious task. The army formula took a day longer than the confrontation formula before the battle awareness avatar successfully simulated the battle awareness avatar. After that, Wang Sheng slept soundly again. When he woke up, he started carving the second word energetically. Once again, the old Taoist acted as a bystander. Wang Sheng didn't disappoint the old Taoist. Every time he used the army formula, he was able to properly withstand the counterattack of the mountain wall after the chisel's chisel. He even incorporated the Tai Chi technique. So even if Wang Sheng was 300 to 500 feet in the air, he could still withstand the counterattack of the mountain wall with just a rope. He wouldn't be bounced off, nor would he break the rope. Every time he used the army formula, it made Wang Sheng's body feel like it was going through an instant of spiritual qi tempering. All the cells, tissues, muscles, internal organs, and bones in his body would experience an all-round strengthening under the resonance of the army formula. Even though the time was short and the effect was short, in Wang Sheng's opinion, the effect was at least 3 times that of normal spiritual qi cultivation. What was even more surprising was that this effect could be accumulated. As long as Wang Sheng continued to use the army formula of the 9 secret words, this strengthening effect would continue to accumulate. With enough accumulation, at least within 10 years, Wang Sheng would have one more spiritual qi tempering effect than others. This wasn't the spiritual chi tempering effect of the first or second stage of the unorthodox realm. It was at least the spiritual chi tempering effect of the fifth stage. Even if there wasn't any special effect related to the enhancement of the soul, just the increase in the quality of the body would make Wang Sheng even more invincible. Just like the previous confrontation formula, when Wang Sheng finished carving the army formula, the old Taoist couldn't wait to present his treasure. Chapter 365. The old Taoist was about to show Wang Sheng what he had learned, but suddenly, a sharp-clawed baboon jumped out. This sharp-clawed baboon appeared from the top of the cliff, so it should be living in the core area of the place of Thousand Despair. Somehow, it discovered traces of Wang Sheng and the old Taoist, so it came out to hunt. In the eyes of the sharp-clawed baboon, these two weak humans were simply its food, and delicious food at that. A normal sharp-clawed baboon would at most be in the 5th stage or 5-star realm. But in the place of Thousand Despair, it could probably reach the 6th stage. As for the core area of the place of Thousand Despair, the 7th stage sharp-clawed baboon was only fit to live in the periphery. Wang Sheng's battle awareness had already alerted Wang Sheng, but with the old Taoist by his side, no matter how powerful the alarm was, Wang Sheng could ignore it. He had already driven away all the insects in the area. No matter how strong the large demon beasts were, as long as they had not yet reached the stage where they could transform into human form, the old Taoist would not care about them. The sharp-clawed baboon was really unlucky to have met the old Taoist. However, the old Taoist did not seem to have the intention to kill the sharp-clawed baboon. Seeing the sharp-clawed baboon swooping down from the sky, the old Taoist suddenly gave up on showing off and pushed Wang Sheng away. Here comes a toy. You can practice with it. The moment the old Taoist retracted his hand, he even greeted Wang Sheng. You've been sitting in seclusion all this time. Your body is going to rust. The old Taoist meant well. Sometimes, fighting required continuous training so that one's body could adapt to the rhythm and even retain muscle memory so that some reactions could become instinctive. To be honest, Wang Sheng had not participated in a battle for a long time. No matter how deep his understanding of the 9 symbolic words was, it was still possible that his reaction would be slower by a second when he encountered a real enemy. Wang Sheng also understood this. Otherwise, there wouldn't be so much training in military camps on Earth. Now that the old Taoist was holding the line, Wang Sheng certainly did not mind fighting the sharp-clawed baboon. Baboons were terrifying creatures on Earth. They were omnivorous and ferocious. It was even more so for the sharp-clawed baboons that lived in the core region of the land of a Thousand Despair. The sharp-clawed baboon seemed to have known that there was something wrong with the mountain wall. Therefore, when it jumped down from the mountain wall, it didn't even touch the mountain wall. Instead, it directly soared into the air and jumped down from a height of more than 1,000 feet. Wang Sheng was shocked. It was more than 400 meters high. Without a parachute, a living person would be smashed into a meat patty. However, the sharp-clawed baboon didn't care about it at all. It jumped down just like that, showing how strong it was. After avoiding the sharp-clawed baboon's landing area, Wang Sheng checked his direction and moved behind the sharp-clawed baboon. It was just that the move that had worked against ordinary demonic beasts had actually failed here. While still in the air, the sharp-clawed baboon had already turned its body with the strength of its waist. No matter how Wang Sheng adjusted his position, it was always facing Wang Sheng. The old Taoist's aura seemed to have disappeared all of a sudden. After his presence was suddenly weakened to a certain extent, Wang Sheng became the main target of the sharp-clawed baboon, just like a bonfire in the night. The sharp-clawed baboon's movements were very fast. Almost as soon as it landed, it bounced up with the strength of its legs and pounced straight at Wang Sheng. It opened its claws in the air, and 10 dagger-like claws grabbed at Wang Sheng's shoulders from both sides. If he was really caught by the claws, even if Wang Sheng was wearing a protective suit made from the skin of an 8th-degree demon beast, he might not be able to block the sharp claws. Moreover, the power contained in the claws was even more terrifying. Not to mention the other things, just thinking about this thing jumping from a height of more than 400 meters and continuing to bounce with just a bend of its legs one could imagine its strength. Wang Sheng's right hand was holding the foot and a half-long saber, and his left hand was holding his tiger's fang, staring closely at the sharp-clawed baboon. This thing moved very fast, but it liked to jump here and there. This was enough for Wang Sheng to make use of. As long as this thing was in the air, no matter how much strength it had, it could only exert the potential energy caused by the force of its stomping on the ground. As long as Wang Sheng did not face it head-on, he would not be able to bear that terrifying strength. In terms of strength, Wang Sheng himself was not weak. After such a long period of strengthening by the 9 words incantation, he might not be weaker than the sharp-clawed baboon. Facing the sharp claws of the sharp-clawed baboon, Wang Sheng's fist that was holding the hilt hit one of the claws. Bang! The body of the sharp-clawed baboon tilted. The next moment, Wang Sheng's tiger's fang slashed across the sharp-clawed baboon's ribs. Blood was seen, but it only scratched through a thin layer. Even though Wang Sheng had used his powerful spiritual energy and the sharpness of the tiger's fang, the hair of the sharp-clawed baboon had withstood most of the cutting force, and only a little bit of it could reach the skin. Bang! Seeing that the tiger's fang didn't work, Wang Sheng simply leaned his body against the shoulder of the sharp-clawed baboon. The difference was that Wang Sheng's feet were on the ground, while the body of the sharp-clawed baboon was still in the air. As soon as they collided, the sharp-clawed baboon was sent flying as if it had hit a spring. Boom! The sharp-clawed baboon, which was 2 feet taller than Wang Sheng, was directly hit against the mountain wall by Wang Sheng. Unable to dodge, the sharp-clawed baboon hit the mountain wall heavily, and then the rebound force of the mountain wall exploded. The sharp-clawed baboon screamed miserably, and then repeated what happened to Wang Sheng when he carved the mountain wall for the first time. Its huge body flew out horizontally. Wang Sheng seized the opportunity and punched at the back of the sharp-clawed baboon. The sharp-clawed baboon that was flying vertically suddenly changed to flying horizontally, and it screamed even more miserably. After 3 consecutive punches, the sharp-clawed baboon didn't land on the ground, and it was all in the air. After 3 consecutive punches, the sharp-clawed baboon had completely lost the initiative after rolling several times in the air. Because the rebound force of the mountain wall was too strong, it couldn't even react when Wang Sheng punched its back. Taking advantage of the sharp-clawed baboon's weakness, Wang Sheng immediately jumped in the direction of the sharp-clawed baboon after punching it. The tiger's fang dagger in his hand only blocked the sharp claws of the sharp-clawed baboon, and then the tiger's fang dagger stabbed into the right eye of the sharp-clawed baboon. As the sharp-clawed baboon screamed miserably, Wang Sheng flipped in the air and landed behind the sharp-clawed baboon. The tiger's fang dagger in his hand blocked the sharp claws of the sharp-clawed baboon. This time, the skin of the sharp-clawed baboon couldn't block the tiger's fang dagger, and blood gushed out like a fountain. Wang Sheng quickly retreated and even let go of the tiger's fang dagger. The severely injured sharp-clawed baboon roared continuously on the spot. It covered its eye and pushed the tiger's fang dagger deep into its eye socket. After roaring a few times, it completely fell down and stopped moving. Chapter 366. Although the old Taoist was experienced and knowledgeable, he couldn't help but be stunned when he saw this scene. A 7th-stage sharp-clawed baboon actually fell so quickly when it encountered a 4th-stage Wang Sheng. Although others couldn't tell that Wang Sheng was in the 4th stage, the old Taoist's sensing ability was absolutely heaven-defying. Wang Sheng's real cultivation couldn't be hidden from him. In the eyes of the old Taoist, a 7th-stage sharp-clawed baboon in the core of the ground of despair, if it encountered Wang Sheng, even if Wang Sheng's life wouldn't be in danger, he could at least bully Wang Sheng until he was flustered. If necessary, it wasn't impossible for the old Taoist to come to his rescue. The old Taoist was still waiting for Wang Sheng to embarrass himself, so that he could watch Wang Sheng make a fool of himself. In the end, such a big sharp-clawed baboon was killed by Wang Sheng in just a few moves. Moreover, it was done so cleanly that no one could find fault with it. What else could the old Taoist do? All he could do was stare at Wang Sheng with eyes as wide as saucers, as though he was some kind of inconceivable monster. Why did the scene just now seem so fake? The old Taoist's original intention was to let the sharp-clawed baboon temper Wang Sheng, so that Wang Sheng could have a good time to exercise and cultivate his combat awareness in between periods of seclusion. To be honest, this was a very correct way of cultivation, especially in actual combat. No matter how diligent one was in daily practice, there were definitely more than one or two people who became weak in the real killing field. The only accident was that the old Taoist underestimated Wang Sheng's actual combat experience and his combat skills. The few attacks, just now, were fast and accurate. The timing was simply perfect. Even if the old Taoist himself made a move, he might not be able to do it as cleanly as Wang Sheng. But what was the old Taoist cultivation realm? What was Wang Sheng's cultivation realm? You're too fast. After the surprise, the old Taoist began to shake his head. Why do you always think of using the opponent's weakness? Is it wrong to attack the enemy's weakness? Wang Sheng asked puzzledly. In the training he received, the main idea was to use various methods to defeat the enemy. If he didn't use the enemy's weakness, was he supposed to attack the enemy's strongest point? There's nothing wrong with a life and death battle. The old Taoist sighed. But I just want you to train, understand? Attack the enemy's strongest point, even if you can't win. When the enemy's strongest point can't stop you, then this enemy is basically no longer worthy of being your enemy. Understand? Wang understood. Wang Sheng understood. Wang understood. Wang Sheng was Tian Old Wang was a smart person. He wanted him to use the most dignified way to defeat the enemy's strongest point. In terms of killing enemies, this was the worst method and the least efficient. But in terms of tempering one's martial cultivation, it was the best method and the most effective method. I feel that the word fighting is definitely related to fighting and even related to fighting awareness. The old Taoist finally revealed his ultimate goal. If you want to comprehend the 9 symbolic words in order, it might be a good idea to have more actual combat. This time, Wang Sheng didn't nod directly. Instead, he fell into deep thought. Vaguely, Wang Sheng felt that the old Taoist was right. The fighting formula should be related to fighting, but Wang Sheng couldn't grasp that hint of inspiration. Perhaps, according to the old Taoist way, he might be able to feel something by going head-on with the fiercest enemy. In the past, Wang Sheng had always used the method of attacking the enemy's weak point in his battles. It didn't matter if he was facing his pursuers or the ferocious beasts in the Thousand Despair grounds. Unless his opponent was much weaker than him, it was very rare for him to use the most ferocious method to crush his opponent head-on. It wasn't that this method of killing the enemy was wrong, but as the old Taoist had said, it wasn't good for honing one's martial arts willpower. To Wang Sheng, running away when he couldn't win was a matter of course. But in the eyes of some warriors in this world, it was a cowardly act. If he didn't kill the enemy and only talked about martial arts cultivation, then Wang Sheng's way of thinking was probably not the most positive attitude for cultivation. Although he knew that the fighting formula was related to fighting, Wang Sheng still couldn't comprehend it. Perhaps this was the reason. After thinking it through, Wang Sheng said to the old Taoist bluntly, "Then I'll have to trouble you for the next few days." It was both a way to express his gratitude and to assign work to the old Taoist. The old Taoist liked Wang Sheng's easygoing attitude. He didn't need to repeat his words a few times to accept them. However, when Wang Sheng said that it would be hard for the old Taoist, it wasn't for nothing. Wang Sheng couldn't fight with the old Taoist to cultivate his willpower, so the old Taoist had to work hard to find some ferocious beasts. These demon beasts couldn't be injured and couldn't unleash their full strength. Just this requirement alone was enough to stump 99% of the people in the grounds of Thousand Despair. The only person who could do this was probably the old Taoist priest. After all, this was close to the edge of the Land of Despair's core area. Any random beast wouldn't be easy to provoke. The old Taoist really had to work hard. He spent 2 days, and with the help of Wang Sheng, he captured an earth-shattering bear. It was also a 7-star earth-shattering bear in the core area of the Land of Despair. The first time Wang Sheng entered the Land of Despair, the first ferocious beast he encountered was an earth-shattering bear. At that time, it was only a 6-star earth-shattering bear, but Wang Sheng could only run to the earth-shattering bear's toilet to avoid its attack. This time, facing the 7-star earth-shattering bear, Wang Sheng used 2 days to slowly cultivate his willpower through small-scale battles. Then, under the supervision of the old Taoist, he stood face to face with the 7-star earth-shattering bear. In a wide square in front of the mountain wall, Wang Sheng and the earth-shattering bear engaged in a head-on battle. The earth-shattering bear was slightly stronger than Wang Sheng in terms of strength, but it wasn't enough to completely suppress Wang Sheng. The earth-shattering bear's most powerful move, the earth-shattering strike, was neutralized by Wang Sheng's 9 secret words. The remaining power wasn't enough to make Wang Sheng faint. In a head-on confrontation, Wang Sheng only used his fists, not any weapons. After being knocked back by the earth-shattering bear dozens of times, Wang Sheng was like a cockroach that couldn't be killed. He climbed back up in the shortest time possible and rejoined the battle. Every time, Wang Sheng would only call for a stop when he was completely exhausted. The old Taoist would restrain the earth-shattering bear and let Wang Sheng rest and recover from his injuries. This series of battles lasted for half a month. During the continuous confrontations, Wang Sheng suddenly had a stroke of luck and blurted out the word fighting. His already exhausted body suddenly surged with a surging battle intent. The word fighting on the giant tablet in his soul space instantly began to emit light. Chapter 367. During the battle with the earth-shattering bear, it was always the old Taoist who would first control the bear, and Wang Sheng would provoke it into a frenzied state before Wang Sheng would start the battle. Under such circumstances, Wang Sheng's fighting spirit was the best. The crazed earth-shattering bear did not respond to the contempt of a small ant. It was completely unwilling to give up until it tore Wang Sheng into pieces. Under such circumstances, it was extremely strenuous for Wang Sheng to deal with it. Not to mention anything else, just facing a crazed earth-shattering bear was not an easy task, not to mention fighting it head-on. When an average person saw a crazed earth-shattering bear, their first reaction would definitely be to turn around and flee. After this thing went berserk, its strength could probably reach the 8th-stage realm. Don't just look at the old Taoist beside him. At the start, when Wang Sheng faced the earth-shattering bear, he was also afraid. This had nothing to do with whether or not he had anyone to protect him. It was completely a reaction that a person should have when facing an enemy much stronger than himself. When Wang Sheng first entered the grounds of Thousand Despair, many experts of the 5th and 4th stage realm did not dare to face the aura of the crazed, earth-shattering bear. That was what was a 6-star earth-shattering bear. What Wang Sheng had to face was a 7-star one. Just to face the earth-shattering bear head-on, Wang Sheng had to mentally prepare himself for 2 days before he could do it. Afterwards, in the process of facing it, he was slapped away time and time again. It was only when the old Taoist saved him that he did not fall and get injured. However, the injuries that were slapped were something that even the old Taoist could not help with. However, what surprised the old Taoist was that every time Wang Sheng was slapped, the injuries he suffered were not serious. The most serious injury he suffered was a mouthful of blood. After that, Wang Sheng quickly suppressed the injury with the help of the army formula and the swordsman formula of the 9 secret words. In less than half a day, he almost recovered. Although Wang Sheng's protective suit was made from an 8th-stage realm demonic beast skin, and there was even a protective array on it, but when he was really facing an 8th-stage realm demonic beast attack, this kind of protection was at most a supporting effect. At least half of the attack would still need to be resisted by Wang Sheng himself. The old Taoist certainly couldn't understand what a liquid bulletproof vest was. This kind of thing was completely incomprehensible in this world. After suffering a rapid blow, the force of the blow was quickly dispersed from the contact surface of the fist to the entire chest and abdomen, expanding the surface area by dozens of times and reducing the pressure by dozens of times. With the strength of Wang Sheng's current muscles, bones, and internal organs, it was no longer fatal to him to endure a blow of this degree. Relying on the repeated head-on confrontations, Wang Sheng's aura also rose again and again. When facing the crazed, earth-shattering bear, his fighting spirit also rose higher and higher. When Wang Sheng recited the fighting formula for the first time, it was actually a natural process. The Lin formula could calm Wang Sheng's mind, but the fighting formula could make Wang Sheng's fighting spirit high, never lacking in fighting spirit. One was calm, the other was crazy, as if they were two completely different attributes. But in the 9 secret words formula, these two words could be organically unified. No matter how high Wang Sheng's fighting spirit was, or how hot-blooded he was, the Lin formula could always keep Wang Sheng in a calm state. And whether it was Wang Sheng or the old Taoist, they both understood that while fighting spirit would be shocking after going crazy, calm madness was actually the most terrifying. At this stage, the earth-shattering bear actually didn't have much use, so the old Taoist simply let it go. Then, he went to find a few different species of monsters and caught them for Wang Sheng to practice with. Facing different monsters, different auras, and different methods of attack, the fighting formula still continued to play its role. After catching a few monsters, Wang Sheng could already familiarize himself with the fighting formula. Only at this point did the old Taoist stop capturing demonic beasts. What the old Taoist didn't know was that the moment the fighting character on the giant tablet in Wang Sheng's soul space started to shine, it meant that Wang Sheng had already grasped the effects of the fighting formula. The monsters that followed only allowed Wang Sheng to familiarize himself with them, but it didn't allow Wang Sheng's comprehension to deepen to the level of the Lin formula and the army formula. Although it took about 20 days, it was all worth it for Wang Sheng to grasp the fighting formula. Next, Wang Sheng sat in front of the mountain wall again, and the tiny person with the battle consciousness in the soul space started the crazy process of simulation and optimization again. The old Taoist was already used to this. In his eyes, Wang Sheng was an unparalleled monster. It was already jaw-dropping that a lousy soul could miraculously level up, but now his cultivation was so abnormal. The old Taoist had lived for so long, but he had never seen a 4th-degree realm kid being hit in the chest by a crazy 7 stars earth-shattering bear. In the end, he could stand up immediately after spitting out a mouthful of blood. If these were only the monstrous performance in cultivation, then Wang Sheng's understanding of Taoism theory was simply immortal. Compared to Wang Sheng, the miracle-like 9 syllables of Sanskrit and the miracle-like fragment of the Tao Te Ching, the Laojun Temple's temple masters, and the group of Taoist priests who claimed to be highly virtuous were like little Taoist children who had just entered the sect. This time, accompanying Wang Sheng into the land of thousand despair, the old Taoist felt that he had gained a lot. Not only was the bottleneck that he had been stuck in for a long time opened by a few words of guidance from Wang Sheng, he could even completely master the 9 words incantation. Not to mention how high his cultivation realm had been, the Tao Te Ching and the 9 words incantation were things that the old Taoist really dreamed of, things that completely belonged to Taoism. They were pure Taoism cultivation classics. The fighting symbol formula was newly mastered, and it had not been used many times. Therefore, Wang Sheng had to stop a few times during the simulation process of the tiny person with the battle consciousness. He used it a few hundred times according to the previous simulation as a practical test. To Wang Sheng, the interruption process was just a simple experiment. However, to the old Taoist priest who was observing, it was a cultivation process that left him in awe. Every time Wang Sheng used the fighting symbol formula, the effect was better than the previous time. Even if it was just a little better, it meant that Wang Sheng had improved a little. This kind of heaven-defying comprehension made the old Taoist drool with envy. The simulation of the fighting symbol formula took a few days, but it was finally completed. When Wang Sheng took the hammer and chisel and began to carve the fighting symbol formula again, the old Taoist firmly believed that this cultivation journey of carving words on the mountain wall would definitely be able to fulfill his long-cherished wish and completely master the 9 words incantation. The old Taoist had already thought of everything. When he completely mastered the 9 words incantation, the old Taoist would give Wang Sheng the title of Taoism's elder brother. Whether Wang Sheng was willing or not, the few masters of Laojun Temple would have to obediently call Wang Sheng little elder brother when they saw him in the future. That scene would definitely be wonderful. Chapter 368. Wang Sheng didn't care what the old Taoist had in mind. He was now immersed in the process of carving the word with the fighting formula. This kind of natural mastery gave Wang Sheng an indescribable feeling of joy. It was more comfortable than drinking a glass of ice water and eating an iced watermelon on a hot summer day. When the fighting formula was completed, the word on the giant tablet in Wang Sheng's soul space radiated a burst of light. The strange thing was that it wasn't that dazzling. It wasn't exactly the same as the previous two words, and it was obviously not a light that he had fully mastered. However, this level of mastery was enough for the old Taoist. It was enough for him to learn the subtleties of the fighting formula from Wang Sheng. While the old Taoist was learning to use it, Wang Sheng was observing and thinking about it. Personality determined one's fate, and sometimes it could also determine one's cultivation. During his special training, Wang Sheng would subconsciously choose to attack the enemy's weakness when facing a strong enemy. It was just like how Special Forces soldiers wouldn't attack the enemy's fortifications, but would try their best to find the enemy's weakness. However, when it came to cultivation, there was a suspicion of trickery, and the fighting formula had no effect. Once he learned to take the initiative to attack the enemy head-on, the fighting formula would be effective. But why couldn't he fully master it? Wang Sheng fell into deep thought again. Just as Wang Sheng was pondering, the old Taoist's voice woke him up. "What are you thinking about?" At this time, the old Taoist was quite excited. The way he presented his treasure was completely like a child's. Facing the excited old Taoist priest, Wang Sheng was not afraid of embarrassing himself and voiced out his doubts. "I was thinking in the past when I faced hundreds of experts who were many times stronger than me, facing demonic beasts that were stronger than me. I searched for their weaknesses, defeated them, and killed them. Could it be that I did not have the will to fight and courage?" The old Taoist had advised him to face the monster head-on, which had given him the opportunity to comprehend the fighting formula. Therefore, this problem had to be solved by the old Taoist. Wang Sheng's question left the old Taoist at a loss. At first, he looked at Wang Sheng's fighting style from a simple perspective. He felt that Wang Sheng was using tricks, so he deliberately reminded Wang Sheng. And because of this change, Wang Sheng successfully comprehended the fighting formula. However, if one were to judge Wang Sheng's lack of fighting spirit and courage, because of this reason, no cultivator in the world would feel the same way. What situation did Wang Sheng face at that time? Under such unorthodox circumstances, facing hundreds of third, fourth, and fifth stage realm experts, if one were to say that Wang Sheng didn't have the courage, the person who spoke would have his front teeth slapped out. This was called having no courage. Show me if you have the courage. As for entering the ground of despair when he was unorthodox and killing the 6 stars Night Star Wolf when he was unorthodox, each of these could be taken out as heroic deeds. This was not a matter of courage. There was no need to comment on this question. As for why Wang Sheng chose to attack the weak point, that was because of Wang Sheng's great wisdom and courage, not because of the bravery of an ordinary person. Perhaps my understanding is too shallow. The old Taoist had a strong point. Even if his cultivation was ridiculously high, he didn't feel embarrassed when it was time to admit his mistakes. He immediately apologized to Wang Sheng. "Let's not talk about such a small matter." Wang Sheng waved his hand and frowned. "But I always feel that the fighting formula is still lacking a little. Do you feel this way?" With Wang Sheng's mention, the old Taoist took a moment to ponder. After using the fighting formula a few times in a row, he finally noticed some areas that were not perfect enough. Previously, he was so excited that he forgot to feel it deeply. Now that he was reminded by Wang Sheng, he immediately discovered the flaws. So there were other secrets in the fighting formula? The old Taoist became excited again. This was like solving a puzzle, one layer after another, making the person solving the puzzle even more excited. The old Taoist was pondering, and so was Wang Sheng. The two of them pondered for a whole day and night without any results. The old Taoist simply stopped pondering. He found a direction and found some unlucky demon beast to practice with. Wang Sheng waited in the wooden hut for 2 days. The old Taoist finally came back with a face full of excitement. As soon as they met, the old Taoist asked, "Kid, if you met an enemy you can't beat now, would you still run away? Then find a chance to strike his weak point?" Of course, Wang Sheng's way of thinking was almost engraved into his instinct. After more than 10 years of training and actual combat on Earth, he had long regarded these as his instinctive actions. Even when he faced several powerful demon beasts head-on, he did not change this deep-rooted fighting style. At that time, he was just deliberately controlling himself. If the situation that the old Taoist had described had really come to pass, Wang Sheng would never sacrifice himself to show his fighting spirit. Wang Sheng once felt that perhaps this was the fundamental reason why he could not fully comprehend the fighting formula. Could it be that the old Taoist was thinking the same thing when he asked this question? Don't you think it's very embarrassing and embarrassing? The old Taoist looked at Wang Sheng with a strange gaze. That gaze seemed to be filled with extreme contempt. This time, Wang Sheng did not answer and directly shook his head. Could Wang Sheng explain to the old Taoist what a sniper was? What was the first task? What was the best disguise to show weakness to the enemy? The old Taoist had never experienced this kind of fighting style. How could he understand the fearless courage of going deep into the enemy's rear alone? That's right, Wang Sheng was stunned. He had always felt that this was also courage and fighting spirit. Why did he have to deny himself? As long as you feel that you have never given in, you have never lost your fighting spirit. The old Taoist's voice rang in Wang Sheng's ears. My previous understanding was one-sided and misled you. You should still stick to your own way. When you use your own way to understand your fighting spirit, you will actually fully understand the fighting formula. This was the second time that the old Taoist had apologized for this problem. It seemed that he had thought a lot these days, and his conclusion was somewhat similar to Wang Sheng's. Yes, Wang Sheng's face was full of a bright smile as he repeated the old Taoist words. I have never lost my fighting spirit. I can be sure of that. When he said the word fighting in the sentence, the light on the giant monument flickered again. This time, it emitted a light as dazzling as the first 2 words. Picking up the hammer and chisel, Wang Sheng walked to the front of the completed huge fighting character on the mountain wall. He started again and carved a smaller fighting character in the blank space at the bottom left corner of the fighting character. The 2 fighting characters looked exactly the same except for the size. However, in the eyes of the old Taoist, there was a world of difference. One was only a semi-finished product, while the other was already a complete product. Chapter 369. The process of self-doubt, self-denial, then self-doubt, and finally self-affirmation allowed Wang Sheng to complete a simple psychological reincarnation. At the same time, he also gained a complete understanding of the fighting formula. As for the old Taoist, although he gave Wang Sheng some guidance during the process of understanding, he managed to correct it at the last moment. It could be said that he had completed a psychological sublimation. His mastery of the fighting formula was even more perfect than that of the confrontation formula and the army formula. The more bumpy it was, the more profound Wang Sheng's understanding became. Wang Sheng admired the old Taoist for discovering the abnormality of the mountain wall. If it wasn't for this mountain wall, Wang Sheng wouldn't have been able to understand his 9 symbolic words to this extent. After the fighting formula was the swordsman formula, the wholeness formula, and the formation formula. Wang Sheng actually used these 3 words the most and had the deepest understanding of them. Because of this, Wang Sheng's subsequent simulation of the battle consciousness little man was simulated with the 3 words together. Although each word could be faster by itself, it would take a lot of time to carve each word individually. Therefore, Wang Sheng decided to solve it all at once. In addition, the simulation of the 3 words together was also Wang Sheng's test of a new idea. Wang Sheng vaguely remembered that the 9 symbolic words could be combined according to a certain order. After the combination, it could also exert different uses and powers. Removing the fighting formula from the first three words, the confrontation formula and the army formula were considered individual simulation optimizations. This time, he tried the simulation optimization of the combination. In particular, the wholeness formula and the formation formula had something in common. They could be used on beast taming at the same time. When used at the same time, the power would be greater. Needless to say, the swordsman formula could heal, detoxify, and promote metabolism. For cultivators, this was simply a gift from the heavens. However, this also brought about a new problem. Previously, when Wang Sheng simulated optimization of each word, he touched the mountain wall and felt the power. The battle consciousness little man would simulate the optimization. A complete optimization would take 3 days and 3 nights if it was short, and 5 days and 5 nights if it was long. With Wang Sheng's cultivation, he would be able to persist for a few days and nights without eating or moving. However, if the 3 words were used together to simulate the optimization, it would obviously take at least 3 times longer, and this did not include the optimization process across use. Without eating or moving for half a month, Wang Sheng did not have the ability of the old Taoist to persist for half a year. Old Taoist, what kind of cultivation method is that you don't eat or move for half a year? Since he had thought of it, Wang Sheng naturally had to ask clearly, so he immediately asked without any scruples. Bullsh *T technique. The old Taoist scolded loudly at the mention of this. It's not like you don't know that I'm trapped. If you hadn't given the old Taoist the Buddhist incantation of 9 words to guide my body and awaken my spirit, I would have fallen asleep and never woken up again. He's just relying on his cultivation. The old Taoist's words made Wang Sheng feel worried about the situation of the girl in his dream. In terms of cultivation, the old Taoist was probably the strongest person Wang Sheng had ever seen. Even he could not hold on for half a year. Strictly speaking, the girl in his dream should have been sealed for more than 400 years, close to 500 years. Could she still hold on? Suddenly, Wang Sheng was in a bad mood. Fortunately, the old Taoist thought that Wang Sheng had broken the illusion after knowing the truth, so he did not care about his expression. Shaking his head, Wang Sheng threw away his worries. Since he could not hold on, Wang Sheng did not think that he could complete the simulation in one go. According to his body's limits, Wang Sheng chose to rest once every 3 days. In fact, once every 5 days, Wang Sheng could also hold on, but that would be an overdraft, so there was no need. The last time the old Taoist sat for half a year, he ended up recuperating all the way after he woke up, even in Carefree City. If Wang Sheng had not made the old Taoist make a move and caused a few accidents, the old Taoist would definitely not have made a move until they reached the land of Thousand Despair. He would still need to recuperate. Wang Sheng would definitely not do something like destroying his body and foundation. The old Taoist regretted it for half a year after doing it once, let alone Wang Sheng. Fortunately, Wang Sheng had mastered the swordsman formula, yi formula, and formation formula. Even if it was divided into several times to simulate and optimize, it did not affect Wang Sheng's thinking. After all, the one doing the work was the fighting spirit of the little person. Wang Sheng only needed to control the rhythm of time. It took Wang Sheng 20 days to simulate and optimize the 3 words. At the same time, he also simulated several combinations. Of course, most of them were combinations of yi formula and formation formula. Next was the carving. The simulation and optimization were carried out at the same time, so the carving was naturally the same as the carving of the 3 words. The word swordsman was carved in the last position at the bottom of the mountain wall, while the words yi and formation were arranged in the second row from the bottom to the top. The first row still had the opportunity to work on the ground, but the second row was purely working at high altitude. It took more than 4 days for the carving to be completed. During this time, the old Taoist was finally able to see the effects of the 3 words in a row and successfully learned the swordsman formula. The strange thing was that no matter how hard the old Taoist tried to comprehend, he could only learn the rudimentary level of the yi formula and the formation formula. The basic effect of the formation formula was to make the insects not attack him and not be hostile. However, it was impossible for them to command those little bugs as if they were their own arms like Wang Sheng did. After going through the simulation and optimization, Wang Sheng had clearly improved tremendously again. Commanding the insects was not difficult at all. Even the old Taoist got a little monkey from God knows where, and it was controlled by Wang Sheng to run around in circles. One had to know that the first time Wang Sheng controlled a monkey was when it was only 2 or 3 days old, and this monkey was obviously an adult. The words swordsman, yi, and formation also radiated a dazzling light on the giant tablet. This also meant that Wang Sheng had completely mastered these 3 words. There were already 6 words in total. Including the word qian that he had barely mastered, Wang Sheng was only left with the following words and the word xing of the 9 words mantra. After 3 months, the old Taoist had basically mastered these 6 words. This efficiency made him so happy that he wished he could eat for Wang Sheng, so that Wang Sheng could save time to ponder. Of course, the old Taoist did not forget to comprehend it himself. When it came to Taoist knowledge, Wang Sheng only knew a lot of novel things, but his foundation was not as solid as the old Taoists. Wang Sheng had an impression of the formation formula, but he had never been completely sure what it was, so he could not get started with it. The formation formula had the effect of splitting all the obstacles that stood in his way and also had the heart to help others. What was the specific manifestation of this? Fighting? Wang Sheng did not realize that fighting could also include the heart to help others. Splitting all the obstacles that stood in his way, what was this? Wang Sheng was puzzled and once again took it out to discuss with the old Taoist. Chapter 370. The heart of saving others. Perhaps it is to cure the illness and save the person. The old Taoist was also puzzled. This might be related to some divine arts of the Taoist sect, but if it was used in cultivation, he still had to guess. But splitting the obstacles in my way seems to be related to my inner demons. I can't figure it out. Heart demon, cure. Wang Sheng wanted to simply attribute it to the treatment of modern medicine. Curing the illness was to treat the body, and fighting against the heart demon was to treat the spirit, which was the psychological treatment of modern medicine. If he thought about it this way, it seemed to be explainable. The question was, did the Taoists think of this theory when they proposed the 9 words incantation? Moreover, from the perspective of the heart demon, the confrontation formula and the fighting formula seemed to be related. But the old Taoist said that it was very likely to cure the illness and save the person. Treating the illness, the army formula, and the swordsman formula all had the same content. However, whether it was the army formula or the swordsman formula, they were all aimed at oneself. If the target was changed to someone else, it would also make sense. The so-called obstacle of splitting, Wang Sheng could completely regard these things as lesions, tumors, blood clots, ulcers, and so on. Using the explanation of modern medicine, it seemed to be barely related. However, since it was aimed at someone else, it seemed that psychological counseling was also very likely. The 9 words incantation was a Taoist method. In fact, from the beginning to the end, from the core essence, it should abandon fighting and killing. Curing the illness and psychological counseling were also in line with the Taoist theory of compassion. Whether it was Wang Sheng waking up the old Taoist or using the 9 words incantation to plot against the enemy, it was actually the effect of the 9 words incantation that should have been used on oneself on others. It was the opposite effect on the enemy and the positive effect on one's own people like the old Taoist. But Wang Sheng was also very clear that no matter how good the positive effect was, it was definitely better to use it on himself than on others. If it was because of the layer of separation, then when Wang Sheng deduced the effect of the lie formula, he realized that perhaps the lie formula was the real good thing for blessing others. Just as he had this thought, there was a throbbing in his soul space. The words on the giant monument seemed to have an additional layer of white light, but it was so dim and unclear. Old Taoist, sit over there and feel it. See what you can feel. Wang Sheng's heart moved. This should be the right direction. He immediately shouted at the old Taoist. The old Taoist was very cooperative. As soon as he heard it, he knew that Wang Sheng had comprehended something. He immediately sat on his couch in the wooden hut, closed his eyes, and calmed his mind. Yes, column, assemble. Wang Sheng charged at the old Taoist priest and unleashed a series of assemble character arts without any regard for anything else. He could only feel a general direction, so this series of chanting by Wang Sheng was actually an experiment. The focus of each was different, and they were all imagination in Wang Sheng's mind. However, this kind of lie-word formula for others had a fatal shortcoming. That was, whether it was to cure illness or to relieve psychological distress, Wang Sheng himself could not see or feel the effect. It had to be realized by the person who was being used. This indirectly reduced Wang Sheng's ability to comprehend things to the lowest level. As the saying goes, illness comes like a mountain collapses, and illness disappears like spinning silk. Even if a patient received symptomatic treatment, they would not dare to say that they could feel better all at once. This was an extremely slow process. For those who received the lie-word formula, they could not feel the changes in their bodies in an instant, let alone judge whether the changes were good or bad. It was impossible to accurately judge the situation of a patient. If it was a healthy person, such as the old Taoist, who was strong and healthy, the effect of the lie-word formula was negligible. It was even impossible to judge the difference between Wang Sheng's sound and the wind blowing from other directions. Fortunately, the target was the old Taoist. Even if the old Taoist body was stronger and healthier than a ninth-stage demon beast, the old Taoist perception was also top-notch. Even if there was only a weak trace of spiritual power entering his body, he could feel it clearly. No, no, no. This is comfortable. No, comfortable. Every time Wang Sheng used the lie-word formula, the old Taoist would give an evaluation so that Wang Sheng could choose from it. When Wang Sheng extracted the part that made the old Taoist comfortable and continued to experiment, the old Taoist gave a more detailed evaluation. Dredging the blood vessels. It's more effective than your army word formula, causing the spiritual power in my body to vibrate. It's a bit beyond the effect of the Zhe word formula. If it wasn't for the old Taoist, who could give such a detailed feeling and let Wang Sheng accurately know the effect and adjust in time, if it were anyone else, anyone that Wang Sheng knew, even the old monster of the royal family, might not be as powerful as the old Taoist, who could give feedback to Wang Sheng. Old Freak Li's cultivation might or might not be sufficient, but he didn't have the old Taoist priest's Taoist background. He didn't have the slightest understanding of a supreme Taoist manual like the 9 syllables of Buddhist incantation, let alone being able to help Wang Sheng in his cultivation. As Wang Sheng used the lie-word formula again and again, and as the old Taoist gave feedback to Wang Sheng over and over again, Wang Sheng finally understood the effect of the lie-word formula. The word lie on the giant tablet in the original soul space became brighter and brighter. At this point, Wang Sheng's lie-word formula could be considered to have reached the intra-level. Basically, this realm was enough for Wang Sheng to use for himself and comprehend by himself. If the effect of the lie-word formula that Wang Sheng used on the old Taoist was 10, he was afraid that it was less than 1 for himself. It was no wonder that Wang Sheng could not feel it before. It was not until now that he had the help of the old Taoist that he could feel it slightly. But as long as he entered the door, then Wang Sheng's cultivation and comprehension would be several times faster. No matter how powerful the old Taoist felt, he could not completely and accurately transmit his feelings to Wang Sheng. On the contrary, everything that Wang Sheng felt when he used it could become an important basis for him to comprehend the lie-word formula. The two complemented each other and were an excellent pair in cultivation. With his own feelings, Wang Sheng could let the little person with combat consciousness participate in it. When the little person with combat consciousness was simulating and optimizing the calculation, Wang Sheng could not help but sigh. Even if there were people in Taoism who could cultivate the Buddhist incantation of 9 words, it would not be easy for a Taoist with a high level of comprehension to cultivate the lie-word formula without the guidance of someone like the old Taoist. All of a sudden, Wang Sheng felt that he was really lucky. He actually met such a powerful person like the old Taoist in that small mountain village, and they got along well with each other. The probability of this was much lower than falling off a cliff and picking up a martial arts secret manual. Sometimes, luck was also a part of strength. It really could not be said to be fake. Chapter 371. It had to be said that the lie character formula was really powerful. At least in Wang Sheng's own perception, the instantaneous effect of the lie character formula on his body was already 1/10 of the effect of spiritual energy tempering when he was promoted to the first realm. If it was used on others, according to the description of the old Taoist, it would be 10 times stronger, which was equivalent to giving others a long period of spiritual energy tempering in an instant. The effect of spiritual energy tempering during the promotion was definitely much better than the effect of the army formula on the target. Although it was only a momentary effect, as long as he could persist for a period of time, as long as it was not a life-threatening physical illness, it could be mostly eliminated. If it was more serious, even if it could not be cured, it could be alleviated. In other words, as long as Wang Sheng practiced the lie character formula to the level of the first few words, he would not need to mingle in the cultivation world after he went out. He would definitely be a peerless famous doctor. Especially when treating patients, it could also have a passive psychological effect, which was many times better than ordinary famous doctors. Wang Sheng once again went into seclusion as he waved at the old Taoist priest while simulating his combat consciousness and giving the old Taoist priest the most direct experience. When Wang Sheng felt that it was enough and began to carve the words on the mountain wall, it was already 10 days later. As soon as he started to use the hammer and chisel, Wang Sheng felt that it was different. The lie character formula was completely different from the first 6 words. The specific performance was that it offset or consumed the power of the mountain wall, which was definitely at least 10 times. Every time he used the Buddhist incantation of 9 words to carve, a part of the power of the mountain wall would be consumed. When he used the first 6 words, the consumption was basically more balanced and the amount was relatively small. At least, Wang Sheng could not feel how much the power of the mountain wall was consumed. But when he used the lie character formula, Wang Sheng clearly felt the power of the mountain wall decline. This was a normal phenomenon. Every time Wang Sheng resisted, the power of the mountain wall would actually be consumed. There was no perpetual motion machine on Earth, and there was no such thing in this world. Previously, it was only because of some special formation that this power was sealed in this mountain wall. However, Wang Sheng had used the 9 words of Sanskrit to lure it out. After resisting it again and again, it would definitely weaken. Even so, Wang Sheng firmly believed that this power was enough for Wang Sheng to comprehend the 9 symbolic words. Wang Sheng was full of admiration for the girl in his dream who had left behind this power. Once the word column was carved, it was time for the old Taoist to perform. Wang Sheng could let the old Taoist cultivate the other words by simply feeling it for a while, but he couldn't do that for the lie word formula. Wang Sheng had to clearly feel the effect of the old Taoist recitation at least a few hundred times and give the most accurate reply every time. This was not an easy task. Wang Sheng's cultivation could not be compared with the old Taoists, and the old Taoist mastery of the lie character formula might not be half as good as Wang Sheng's. After all, Wang Sheng had a general understanding of modern medical psychology on Earth, but the old Taoist did not have such unique knowledge. In terms of understanding alone, there was a huge difference. Therefore, the old Taoist's lie character formula deviated a lot. Most of the time, he could not grasp the effect. If he were to evaluate it by Wang Sheng standards, he would at most be at the entry level, which was 1 level lower than the entry level. Wang Sheng sometimes had to concentrate to feel the effect of the old Taoist lie character formula. It could be said that in the 9 words incantation, Wang Sheng had already mastered the latter part of the lie character formula. He only lacked the rho character formula. He had not mastered the rho character formula yet, but among the first 8 characters, the lie character formula was the most difficult to cultivate. It's still not that interesting. Although he was unwilling, Wang Sheng still regretfully told the old Taoist his own judgment. Go back and take a look at your medical skills. Maybe you'll understand more. For the first time, the old Taoist showed a dejected expression. He sighed for a long time, regretting that he did not put more effort into medicine. Many of the Taoist priests were good physicians with excellent medical skills. However, the old Taoist did not learn it because he felt that it was not that interesting. As a result, there was a threshold when he was cultivating the lie character formula. I'll take a look at it when I go back. The old Taoist only hung his head for a while before he raised it again. He was full of fighting spirit, as if he had used the fight character formula to strengthen himself. There are many medical skills in Lao Juan's temple. I'll memorize them all when I go back. That, Wang Sheng suddenly thought of something, but he did not know whether he should say it or not. He hesitated. What? The old Taoist saw that Wang Sheng wanted to say something but hesitated, so he could not help but ask. He looked at Wang Sheng up and down for a while and suddenly asked, "Do you have a bad idea?" The old Taoist and Wang Sheng had been together for a long time, so he understood his character. If it was not something that put him in a difficult position, he would definitely not be so hesitant. And something that put the old Taoist in a difficult position was probably not a good thing. Wang Sheng was hesitating about whether to remind the old Taoist that he could actually refer to human anatomy. However, under the old ideas of this world, who knew if this was a rebellious thing? Wang Sheng did not want the old Taoist to become a devil that everyone wanted to beat up because of this. At least on Earth, what Wang Sheng knew was that ancient Chinese medicine rarely came into contact with anatomy. The ancients paid attention to death, and dissecting a corpse was simply blasphemy. For many generations, no one dared to easily cross the line. This world was also backward. Whether they could accept such a rebellious idea, Wang Sheng did not know. However, Wang Sheng knew very well that if the old Taoist wanted to do it, he would not care about the etiquette of the secular world. If he wanted to do it, he would do it. If Wang Sheng's suggestion caused Wang Sheng's people to desert him, Wang Sheng would be in deep trouble. However, looking at the old Taoist's determined eyes, Wang Sheng quickly gave up and decided to tell him. If you can completely study human anatomy, the effect may be better. Wang Sheng said his idea. Anyway, the old Taoist knew whether it was good or bad, so he could decide whether to do it or not. Just dissect a corpse after killing someone. After Wang Sheng finished speaking, he was nervous, but the old Taoist did not take this matter seriously. Old Taoist, I've already killed people. Why would I care about dissecting a few dead people? While Wang Sheng was surprised by the old Taoist's shocking words, the old Taoist suddenly looked up and down at Wang Sheng for a long time, then suddenly asked, whether you kill people or demon beasts, you can always accurately find their weaknesses and easily attack them to kill them. Have you dissected a lot of people? Huh? Wang Sheng was stunned by the old Taoist deduction. Seeing that the old Taoist wanted to know the answer seriously, Wang Sheng thought for a moment and replied, I have dissected a lot of demon beasts. I used to be a butcher in Carefree City for a while. As for people, under the old Taoist's expectant gaze, Wang Sheng said slowly, before me, someone dissected thousands of people and then taught me what they concluded. This is a subject called anatomy. Chapter 372. The old Taoist was once again dumbfounded. He had never thought that killing and chopping people into pieces could actually become a subject and even have an official name for it. Wang Sheng was also speechless about the old Taoist definition of anatomy. What did he mean by killing and cutting people into pieces? How could this kind of fragmentary thing be called anatomy? Of course, Wang Sheng also fully understood that in the era without a microscope, being cut into pieces was just a little more crude than proper anatomy. How could he explain to the old Taoist that the corpses dissected in the medical school were all voluntary? The old Taoist would definitely spit on Wang Sheng's face. Apart from having no other choice, who would be willing to be dissected into pieces and have their bones ground into ashes? Without a choice, Wang Sheng could only acknowledge the old Taoist's understanding of anatomy. However, Wang Sheng still advised the old Taoist, lest he became murderous and randomly found a few so-called villains to kill and dissect. But whether the old Taoist would listen, Wang Sheng did not know. It was up to him. After a day's rest, Wang Sheng continued the simulation optimization of the forwarding formula. Compared to the forwarding formula was simply a gift. Wang Sheng had already understood the forwarding formula before. At this time, even the old Taoist did not need to put much effort into the forwarding formula. With his cultivation, the effect of using the forwarding formula to regulate the meridians was much better than Wang Sheng's. This was also the only word in the Buddhist incantation of 9 words that the old Taoist could beat Wang Sheng. The advantage was built on the basis that the old Taoist strength was tens or even hundreds of times that of Wang Sheng. However, the old Taoist, who could still be proud of himself, could not help but sigh again after seeing Wang Sheng's strong effect on the carving of the forwarding formula after a few days of closed-door training. Wang Sheng was a monster. Of course, all of this was due to the old Taoist reminder, which let Wang Sheng use the perspective of the use of spiritual energy to resist the residual power on the mountain wall, thus deepening his understanding of the Buddhist incantation of 9 words. However, when he saw Wang Xingjin pondering over each word and demonstrating it to him, the old Taoist couldn't help but sigh in admiration. Wang Xingjin was truly worthy of being the one who proposed the 9 secret words incantation. He was truly formidable to the extreme. What could make the old Taoist so impressed was definitely not because of Wang Sheng's conformance with the forwarding formula, but because the old Taoist's unexpected technique. For the current Wang Sheng, spiritual energy conditioning was actually very simple. This was because Wang Sheng only had a total of 16 apertures. It was not very complicated, and the effect of conditioning was relatively ordinary. Compared to the old Taoist, who knew how many apertures he had, it was naturally far inferior. Wang Sheng also knew this, so when he optimized the simulation, he directly added the idea of integrating all the 16 apertures he had collected before, as well as the following cultivation methods. The 8 little people with fighting consciousness used the most stable structure to connect the 16 apertures, and also took care of the distribution and absorption of spiritual energy. If Wang Sheng had thought about every possibility and tested it himself, it would definitely be a troublesome thing that would make Wang Sheng not have to do anything else for the rest of his life. However, when it came to battle consciousness simulation, it was quite fast. It would only take 1 or 2 minutes at most for a small person to simulate one type of battle consciousness. As for Wang Sheng, it would take him at least half a month to 20 days to simulate the battle consciousness personally. This was also the reason why everyone would rather use secret manuals to learn instead of creating their own cultivation methods. It was because every secret manual, even the simplest one, had been optimized by countless people for many generations. It was far more effective than exploring by oneself. If it was just a new cultivation method optimized from 16 apertures, Wang Sheng's performance was not enough to shock the old Taoist. What really shocked the old Taoist was that when Wang Sheng used the forwarding formula, he did not resist the power of the mountain wall, but directly absorbed it. Since there was the effect of spiritual energy to regulate the meridians, and Wang Sheng's primordial soul had a devouring effect, why would such a powerful force be wasted on resisting consumption instead of absorbing it? After absorbing this thought, the excitement of the little person with fighting consciousness directly doubled. Wang Sheng had rarely seen the little person with fighting consciousness be so excited. This made Wang Sheng more and more convinced that his decision was not wrong. Therefore, when Wang Sheng's first hammer and chisel absorbed the power in the mountain wall that should have bounced back to Wang Sheng, the old Taoist's eyes seemed to have seen something incredible and could not move in any other direction. Of course, the old Taoist knew how powerful the remaining power in the mountain wall was. Although this power might be insignificant to the old Taoist for Wang Sheng, if Wang Sheng did not know the Tai Chi technique from the beginning, it would have been fatal. It was definitely not an easy task to absorb this kind of deadly power. It required unparalleled judgment, precise control of technique and timing. In short, if one was not careful, the luckiest outcome would be minor injuries and vomiting blood. Under the old Taoist shocked gaze, Wang Sheng absorbed the power in the mountain wall with each hammer and chisel. In the end, this was also a kind of pure spiritual energy. As soon as it entered Wang Sheng's body, it entered the primordial soul space through the meridians and apertures that Wang Sheng had optimized. Before the primordial soul could absorb and assimilate it, the little person with fighting consciousness jumped out and absorbed all the spiritual energy absorbed by the mountain wall. Wang Sheng himself was extremely shocked by this. If it were not for the fact that the old Taoist could not see this scene, Wang Sheng suspected that the old Taoist's eyes would have popped out of their sockets. A more elegant way of putting it would be to say that his eyes were about to burst. The demonstration of the before word was actually not for the old Taoist, but for Wang Sheng to feed the little person with fighting consciousness. When the last stroke of the before word was completed, there was no longer any remaining power in the entire mountain wall. This also meant that Wang Sheng's Xing word could not be completed with the help of the power of the mountain wall. Even so, Wang Sheng did not feel it was a pity at all. After absorbing all the remaining power on the mountain wall, the little person with fighting consciousness gave Wang Sheng a huge surprise. It split again. Wang Sheng had not been able to make the little person with fighting consciousness split again after several breakthroughs. After absorbing the power of the mountain wall, the little person with fighting consciousness split again. Although it only increased the number of splits, the number had increased from 8 to 16. This also meant that if Wang Sheng had similar simulation optimization work in the future, the efficiency would be doubled. Although the old Taoist also regretted that the power on the mountain wall had been completely absorbed and could not continue the deduction of the Xing word, the old Taoist was quite open-minded. He did not think about relying on the remaining power on the mountain wall to let Wang Sheng master all the 9 words of incantation. Being able to master 8 was enough to make the old Taoist pleasantly surprised. After living on this mountain wall for more than 4 months, Wang Sheng and the old Taoist finally left. Chapter 373. For more than 4 months, Wang Sheng and the old Taoist had completely comprehended the 8 words of the 9 secret words in front of this mountain wall. For Wang Sheng and the old Taoist, it was enough. In fact, both Wang Sheng and the old Taoist had already seen that even if Wang Sheng did not absorb the power in the end, the remaining power would not be enough for Wang Sheng to comprehend the Xing character formula. It was better to take advantage of this opportunity to let the combat consciousness avatar absorb it. Now that there were 16 combat consciousness avatars, Wang Sheng was so happy that it could not be described. Along the way, the old Taoist could see that Wang Sheng was ecstatic. However, the old Taoist understood very well. If it were him, he would also be ecstatic. These 4 months of comprehension were more useful than half a year of retreat, and it was incomparably safe. Back at the old Supreme Lord Temple, the old Taoist could almost use what he had learned from Wang Sheng to open up a unique Taoist technique. The two happily walked along the edge of the core of the land of Thousand Despair, made a small circle, and returned to the camp of the Imperial Treasury. After a few months, the camp of the Imperial Treasury was not so lively on the surface, but the number of people did not decrease at all. It was just that the vast majority of people liked to retreat in their respective rooms to comprehend and cultivate. Except for necessary activities, they rarely came out to wander. This was the normal state of the camp. A quiet and safe environment was also conducive to everyone's comprehension and cultivation. Anyone who broke this rule would definitely be attacked by everyone here. This was a spontaneous rule that was even stricter than the rules of the inner city of Worry-Free City. Good thing. After looking around, Wang Sheng and the old Taoist came to this conclusion. Then the two rested in the camp for a few days, and then leisurely walked out of the land of Thousand Despair along the road that they had opened when leading the team. After walking through the path filled with temporary camps, the team of more than 2,000 people had basically carved out an 8 feet wide path. The people of the Imperial Treasure House were very shrewd. Under the leadership of their wise and powerful young master, Marquis Lu and Ho, they more or less had the attribute of profiteering. Seeing such a good foundation, how could they not know how to use it? The team that was about to return to transport supplies was on the basis of that road. As they walked, they cleaned up and avoided possible dangers. After that, every supply team that went in and out would have the task of clearing this path. After LV, when Ho learned of the details, he didn't hesitate to assign more than 30 formation masters to the supply team. Each of them carried a formation stone to protect them along the way. On average, there was a temporary camp of 20 li, and the Imperial Treasure House once again invested in it, making it 5 li per temporary camp. However, these newly added temporary camps only had one formation stone that could be used. If anyone encountered danger on the road, as long as they followed the road, regardless of whether they were advancing or retreating, a temporary camp that was more than 1,000 meters away would at least be able to barely ensure their safety. There were a few people in the team who were specially used to widen the road, tamp the roadbed, clean up the plants, and spread some insect repellents on both sides of the road. On average, they had to go back and forth twice a month. By the time Wang Sheng walked back along the road had become an ordinary two-way road. If it weren't for the fact that the road was still in the land of thousand extremes, it would definitely be comparable to the courier roads outside. Such a road could be said to be greatly reduced in danger, and at the same time, the speed had been greatly improved. In the future, if people wanted to enter the land of thousand extremes again, they didn't have to take the risk of opening up mountains and forests. They just had to go in along the road. If there were a lot of people and there were masters among them, they could basically swagger straight to the camp. Wang Sheng and the old Taoist couldn't help but admire that when there was profit, the most creative and executive group was definitely not a cultivation master, nor an aristocratic family, but definitely a businessman. Wang Sheng didn't believe that the vassal states wouldn't be interested in a road that went straight to the core edge of the land of thousand extremes. In the future, this road would definitely be one of the busiest roads for adventuring, cultivating, and making a fortune. Just thinking about the extremely powerful martial will, one could imagine how many people would be firmly hooked in the land of thousand extremes. This was indeed the case. When Wang Sheng walked out of this road and saw Worry-Free City, he understood everything. This road connected to Worry-Free City, which had been jointly sealed by Worry-Free City and the Imperial Treasury. If one wanted to enter, he had to buy an expensive road pass, which was actually a toll fee. Moreover, he couldn't go whenever he wanted. For the time being, he could only go once a month in the name of safety. Of course, all the taxes, toll fees, and various restrictions didn't work on Wang Sheng. Wang Sheng was the only exception that all parties agreed that he could walk on this road at any time without paying any price or obeying any time limit. Even Hai Duke Song, who hated Wang Sheng the most, didn't have any objections on this point. When Wang Sheng's figure appeared in Worry-Free City, many people had already received the news. The butler made arrangements almost instantly. Before Wang Sheng returned to his small courtyard, he saw the butler standing at his door, smiling like the Methriya Buddha. The current butler was different from the last time they met. The last time they met, he was dressed more casually and had always been wearing a comfortable butler robe. But this time, it was obviously an official robe of a certain official position. Not only that, in the past, the butler had at most 2 attendants who ran errands to deliver messages. Now, in addition to those 2, there were 4 other soldiers who looked like regular soldiers at a glance. Even the 2 errand boys were now in uniform. Upon seeing Wang Sheng, the smile on the butler's face immediately bloomed like a blooming peony. But when his gaze turned to Sergeant Old Taoist, it was obvious that he also had a sense of respect and admiration. Sergeant Old Taoist's disguise was still the same, but looking at the butler's expression, he must have already known about Sergeant Old Taoist's disguise. As a super famous killer who had lived in seclusion in Worry-Free City for many years, he naturally had a halo of closeness and respect. The butler welcomed Wang Sheng into Wang Sheng's small courtyard with a smile. The butler gave orders to the 2 servant girls even more casually than he gave orders to the servants of the city lord's residence. This made Wang Sheng feel that he had returned to his own home or someone else's home. While you were away, our worry-free nation has been very lively. After moving Wang Sheng to the main seat, the butler respectfully invited Sergeant Old Taoist to take a seat. Only then did the butler respectfully sit at the last seat and personally poured tea for the two of them. Only then did he say, "Brother, all of this is thanks to you. The Marquis specially asked me to come here to express my gratitude." The moment the butler spoke, Wang Sheng could tell that something was different. The king of worry-free nation had actually been conferred the title of Marquis. He was now Marquis. Chapter 374. With the size and population of Worry-Free City, the Lord of Worry-Free City would at most be a count in this round of nobility bestowal by the Emperor. It would be impossible for him to be any higher. But now, he heard from a butler that the king of Worry-Free Country had been bestowed the title of Marquis. This was a little hard to understand. "Because of you, my brother, this road and that campsite." The butler immediately saw through Wang Sheng's doubts and revealed the answer. The Son of Heaven also values this path very much. So, Wang Sheng was stunned. It was just a road, but it actually turned a count into a marquee. It really made him speechless. If that was the case, why didn't the Emperor reward him with anything? Damn it, even the Son of Heaven's enfeoffment of feudal vassals was taught by Wang Sheng. This bunch of people were really burning bridges after crossing the river. The butler knew very well what Wang Sheng was depressed about, so he smiled faintly. In this regard, he believed that as long as the royal family had brains, they wouldn't do something like pulling the ladder out of the roof. It was probably just that they couldn't find Wang Sheng's whereabouts, so he couldn't blame the royal family for being unreasonable. The Marquis said that as long as it is within our worry-free country, anything that the Marquis can do. Since they wanted to rope Wang Sheng in, they could not do something as inefficient as the royal family. They could not even find the right person after giving him a gift. The butler quickly expressed Marquis Ashoka's gift. "Feel free to mention it. 3 chances. As long as you tell me, I will use the power of the entire city to get it done for you." Wang Sheng was very satisfied with this gift. It was equivalent to the 3 conditions that the Marquis of Worry-Free had agreed to. Wang Sheng could fulfill them at any time. To Wang Sheng, no amount of gold could compare to these 3 conditions that Wang Sheng was more satisfied with. "Help me thank the Marquis for his kind intentions." Wang Sheng thanked the butler in satisfaction. "Brother, it would be impolite to refuse. I will accept it." Seeing that Wang Sheng had agreed, the butler's smile became even wider. Today's matter was considered half done, and the rest were just some minor matters. He didn't care about anything else. Since the dishes and wine had been served, he would drink to his heart's content first. The butler accompanied Wang Sheng and the old Taoist as they drank and told them about recent events. During this time, the biggest and hottest news was, of course, the camp of the Imperial Treasure House and this road. It could be said that this was the fastest shortcut to the core of the ground of 1,000 Despair. It was unknown how many feudal vassals were regretting that they did not win over Wang Sheng back then, so that the Imperial Treasury took advantage of them. There was a path and a campsite. As long as one arrived at the campsite, even if they didn't cultivate, they could use the campsite as a base and explore the core area. It was a path to riches. Although the risk was greater, who in this world didn't understand the principle of seeking wealth amidst danger? If he really found something good in the core of the ground of 1,000 Despair, wouldn't he be able to make a meteoric rise in his cultivation overnight? The reason why there weren't any experts venturing in on a large scale was because the road had just been completed and it wasn't time for it to be open for the first time yet. In addition, the supply of the camp was not fully prepared, so there were some restrictions. It was estimated that in 1 month at most, after the supply team delivered supplies on a large scale twice, the camp could provide for at least 3,000 or 4,000 people for a month or 2. As long as the supply team was continuous, the camp could always maintain a stable supply. Of course, it was also necessary to share enough benefits from Wang Sheng. In the case that Wang Sheng hadn't returned yet, the imperial treasure house had sent almost 100,000 gold coins to Wang Sheng's mansion. When Wang Sheng was not there, the two little maids and the cook were probably counting gold coins for fun. You can arrange it. Don't wait for me to decide. Of course, Wang Sheng was sensible and immediately said the good words first. The butler had said so much. Wasn't he just waiting for Wang Sheng to nod? It wasn't that all parties didn't want to get rid of Wang Sheng, but when they thought that even the dignified Marquis Song swallowed the humiliation and closed the Song family's camp after receiving a message from Wang Sheng, the smart people knew that there must be a reason. In addition, the Song family's words were vague, but they didn't dare to refute it. This was almost certain. If Wang Sheng did not agree to it, one could imagine the consequences of entering the land of thousand extremities without getting into trouble. If Marquis Song didn't say a word under the protection of hundreds of experts, who dared to say that they were more powerful than the hundreds of experts of the Song family? Did they really think that Marquis Wuyo and the Imperial Treasure House didn't want to make more money for the road? Wasn't it because they were afraid that Wang Sheng wouldn't agree? When the butler heard Wang Sheng's words, he was really happy. This also meant that Wang Sheng had nodded, and everyone could work together to make benefits in the future. When he was happy, the butler greeted him more enthusiastically, and some recent anecdotes came out of his mouth as if they didn't cost money. Which two vassal states were at loggerheads with each other? Which expert had done something shocking? After talking about everything under the sun for a while, the housekeeper finally talked about one thing. "Brother, have you been on bad terms with Bao Qin Yutang recently?" the butler asked Wang Sheng. "You don't know?" Wang Sheng didn't believe that the butler didn't know that the new shopkeeper of Bao Qin Yutang was arrogant and bossy and was asked to leave by Wang Sheng. That shopkeeper is insensible, and they have already dealt with him. The butler deliberated over his words and said slowly, "The big boss of Bao Qin Yutang found our monarch and wanted him to pull some strings to clear up the misunderstanding." "I don't know what you mean, brother. The relationship between Bao Qin Yutang and the monarch is not bad." Wang Sheng didn't answer the butler's question, and instead asked about the relationship between the boss of Bao Qin Yutang and the lord of Carefree City. The butler muttered to himself for a while, and nodded. "Their relationship is very deep. What's in it for me this time?" Wang Sheng didn't say yes or no. He just asked about the benefits. Not long ago, Bao Qin Yutang discovered a relic map from a few hundred years ago. The butler didn't keep Ai Hui in suspense, and directly said, "That was the mountain gate of an alchemy sect in the past, and it is in the lands of Thousand Despair." They shared the map, and if you agree, there are a few divine pills inside. As long as you lead the way, you don't have to do anything, and after the matter is over, you can get one of them. Divine pill? What kind of divine pill? Wang Sheng blurted out. "It is said that as long as the person is still breathing, the life rejuvenation pill can bring the dead back to life." The butler had a fascinated look on his face and described to Wang Sheng, "A cripple can become normal after eating it, and a normal person can live for 100 years after eating it." "I don't like to deal with unfamiliar people," Wang Sheng replied noncommittally. "Moreover, who knows whether the map is real or not? If I find something wrong when I reach the place, who can I find for the life rejuvenation pill? Since they are willing to cooperate, of course they won't look for strangers." The butler smiled mysteriously. "Don't you like that big-breasted female boss? This time, she will personally take charge." Chapter 375. The female owner actually managed to turn defeat into victory? Wang Sheng's interest was piqued. However, Wang Sheng was puzzled. Since the female owner was already in charge of such a huge operation, why did she still contact him through the worry-free city lord instead of coming to him herself? She isn't the one in charge of Bao Qin Yutang now. Regarding this, the housekeeper explained clearly. "In fact, she isn't in a good situation now. It's just that the owner of Bao Qin Yutang is willing to give her a chance, so she contacted you through the king. Otherwise, she wouldn't be able to leave this place. The ruins of the alchemy sect in the grounds of Thousand Extremities. Divine pills, Wang Sheng only needed to think for a moment to understand. The masked female owner's situation wasn't that bad. Otherwise, why would such a suicidal mission fall into her hands? Who could move freely in the grounds of thousand extremities now? Other than Wang Sheng, there was no one else. Bao Qing Yutang had the map of the alchemy sect's ruins, but he couldn't find the way himself. Thus, he could only look for Wang Sheng. However, the new shopkeeper had offended Wang Sheng. How could Wang Sheng lead the way for them? Only the female owner and Wang Sheng had a little bit of friendship. Thus, these people immediately pushed the female owner out, hoping to use a relationship with Wang Sheng to get Wang Sheng to agree to help. This was probably the last bit of value that she had. If Wang Sheng was willing, then she would still have a chance to help Bao Qing Yutang explore the ruins. If Wang Sheng wasn't willing, the best outcome for the female owner would be to be imprisoned until she died. The internal strife of a big family was really cruel. Even though the female owner had contributed a lot to Bao Qing Yutang, because she was a woman, she didn't have the slightest chance to suppress her. Wang Sheng thought about it and felt pity for her. She had been working hard outside for all these years and had just made some achievements. But now, not only had she been taken advantage of, she had even been pushed into this situation. Wang Sheng could imagine that if she could successfully explore the ruins and find the elixir that Bao Qing Yutang needed, her situation would be slightly better. If he failed, he might not have another chance in the future. The female owner probably understood this, so even if there was only a slim chance of survival, she would try her best to grab it. Unfortunately, she didn't even have the chance to meet with Wang Sheng. She had to rely on Bao Qing Yutang's boss to fight for this opportunity to die. Do you need help? Wang Sheng began to ponder. Wang Sheng didn't care about divine pills. With the 9 secret words, Wang Sheng could ensure that his body wouldn't fall into that kind of situation. Moreover, whether or not there was a divine pill was another matter altogether. If there really was such a powerful thing, would the Lin family have let go back then? They would have snatched it long ago. Bao Qing Yutang probably just wanted to give it a try. If he succeeded, it would be of great benefit to them. If he failed, there would be no loss. He could even use this opportunity to see that Wang Sheng might help the female owner for some reason. In the future, he could use the female owner to make use of Wang Sheng many times. What a good plan. No wonder they were one of the 2 profiteering families. As for the female owner's safety, it was probably never within their consideration. If she was alive, they would make use of her. If she was dead, they would get rid of an internal competitor. Needless to say, this mission must have been voluntary by the female owner. Is it very dangerous? Wang Sheng didn't make a decision and just asked. In a land of 1,000 devastations, the butler smiled bitterly. You know it better than me. A female confidant? Old Taoist Ling Su listened for a long time and finally understood. He asked jokingly, a beauty with big breasts? I don't know if she's a beauty. I've never seen her before. This time, it was Wang Sheng's turn to smile bitterly. He really hadn't seen what the female owner looked like. In the past, they always met with each other with her face covered. To be honest, Wang Sheng really didn't want to be made use of now. Wang Sheng didn't like Bao Qing Yutang's way of doing things. Moreover, Wang Sheng's main goal now was the girl in his dreams. Wang Sheng didn't want to be distracted by some messy things. His friendship with the female owner was indeed a friendship, but it wasn't to the extent that Wang Sheng would go through fire and water for her. Forget it. Wang Sheng expressed his wishes to the butler. I'll rest for a while, then enter the camp to cultivate for a while. The butler shrugged his shoulders, indicating that it didn't matter. After all, this wasn't the king's business. It was just a message. Since the message had been delivered, the king would have completed his task and received the favor. As for whether Wang Sheng agreed or not, it wouldn't affect the king at all. It was a small matter, not worth mentioning. This little episode didn't affect the 3's interest in drinking. On the contrary, it became even more lively. They messed around until the sky turned dark. Only then did the butler let out a satisfied burp and left under the service of a few uniformed experts. Just as the butler left, LV Wenho came over with the beauty Ling. After a few months, LV Wenho seemed to have taken better care of himself. His skin was as delicate as the young Ling beside him. He didn't know if it was Wang Sheng's misconception, or maybe LV Wenho's cultivation had advanced again. His delicate face looked even more attractive, making people unable to look away at first glance. Even though he was a man, people couldn't help but mistake his gender. Fortunately, Wang Sheng muttered in his heart, "I'm a straight man." Only then did he look away. LV Wenho came to express his gratitude. At the same time, he had the same goal as the butler, which was to seek Wang Sheng's approval. Although Wang Sheng had already nodded to the butler, and LV Wenho didn't ask about the result, LV Wenho still came to visit personally every time. It made people feel as if they were bathed in the spring breeze. It was indescribably comfortable, and even nodded willingly. What's more, the 100,000 gold coins had already been delivered to his door when Wang Sheng wasn't around. This initiative and generosity gave people one word: comfortable. Compared to LV Wenho, the new shopkeeper of Baoqing Yutang could simply be thrown into the rubbish heap. No wonder Baoqing Yutang handled it himself. With that kind of conduct, it would be strange if Baoqing Yutang's business didn't plummet. The old Taoist didn't have any friendship with LV Wenho, so he directly went back to his room to rest and didn't come out. Wang Sheng had no choice but to accompany LV Wenho to drink alone. Fortunately, when he used the soldier formula, he could easily force out the alcohol, so he didn't get drunk. As they drank until they were tipsy, Wang Sheng began to talk about Baoqing Yuhao as if they were chatting. Baoqing Yutang is going to be in big trouble. Speaking of competitors, even the steady LV Wenho now had a smile on his face. In recent months, the new owner has made a few stupid moves. They can't see the effect now, but in a few months, they will know how powerful they are. Greedy, Wang Sheng almost guessed the crux of the problem and confirmed with a smile. That's right. LV Wenho laughed and clinked glasses with Wang Sheng. Greedy, always thinking of making all the money in the world into their own hands. Doing business on both sides, they will cry in the future. Chapter 376. From the beginning, the female owner got the white sugar business and also coveted the refined salt business. Wang Sheng knew that the female owner was actually very greedy. She didn't seem to realize what it meant for herself and Baoqing Yutang after having both businesses in her hands. It was also an exclusive business, but how did the Imperial Treasury do it? The development of snake venom was highly technical and targeted at specific people and specific markets. It also made a lot of money, but no one would be jealous because it was not a business that people with small capital and small profits could do. It was the same for the campsite in the land of thousand despair. Although all parties were extremely jealous, firstly, they had nothing to do with Wang Sheng. Secondly, if it were any other small vassal state, they would go bankrupt in a matter of minutes if it were to be that road and that campsite. Such a large investment and many risks made all the forces who knew the cost of building the camp stop and honestly pay the money to buy the road. This business was not afraid of being robbed by others because this kind of business was not a business that any vassal state or force should get involved in. If one person got involved, others would attack him. The Imperial Treasury was sandwiched in the middle and was as stable as Mount Tai. Unlike the white sugar and refined salt, the scale of the business was absolutely rare in the world. It was a business that covered the whole world, but there was no absolute advantage of monopolization. Whoever grabbed it would not let the business go on, and the risk was extremely high. Wang Sheng had reminded the female owner twice when she wanted the refined salt business, but the female owner insisted on getting the refined salt business. As a result, the consequences appeared now. Before the external competitors could even open their bloody mouths, the internal competitors had already almost swallowed the female owner in one gulp, eating her cleanly. Business on both sides? Wang Sheng heard the word from LV Wenho and asked curiously. Song, Tang, Qiu, Shurdai, they have always been in control of the imperial court and the local government. Now, their 5 vassal states are also the 5 strongest vassal states in the world, and they can be regarded as a group. Marquis LV Wenho did not seem to be on guard against Wang Sheng. He casually explained his business dealings to Wang Sheng. The remaining ones are the other group, led by the Xia, Feng, and Gan clans. Together with the sects of various sizes, their combined strength is on par with the 5 great clans and the 5 vassal states. They want to fight for power that corresponds to their strength and territory. Wang Sheng had actually heard of this classification a long time ago in the Laojun Temple. However, the version at that time was that the 5 great families rose after the Lin family was destroyed, while the Xia, Feng, and Gan families suffered heavy losses in the battle with the Lin family. They lost control and the ability to join the first group. They've been working hard all these years. According to Wang Sheng's simple division, Song, Tang, Qiu, Shi, and Dai were considered to be the ones in power in the ruling party. Xiao Feng Gan and the other sects and small families were considered to be in the wild. This way, it was much simpler and clearer. If the emperor's faction, which wasn't strong enough but wanted to stir up trouble, was added to the mix, the world would be able to stage a romance of the 3 kingdoms. On the surface, the various parties appear to be peaceful, but in private, who knew how many times they had fought openly and covertly? Basically, they could be considered as warring parties. Baoqin Yutang did business on both sides. If it was just a small business, it naturally didn't matter. However, if it was something that could break the balance of power between the 2 sides, did Baoqin Yutang really think that they were Americans and could sell arms to both sides? Even if they were Americans who sold arms to both sides, when the war was almost over, they would quickly stand on the side of the winner and trample on the loser. However, from what Wang Sheng heard from LV Wenho's words, the people in charge of Baoqin Yutang didn't seem to realize this. They also do large-scale weapons and medicinal ingredients business? Wang Sheng asked without thinking. Weapons and medicinal ingredients were war resources and the most direct war resources. In the past, Wang Sheng had only seen some high-quality weapons and medicinal pills in Baoqin Yutang. If they even did ordinary goods, then Baoqin Yutang was indeed walking on the road to death. Before LV Wenho answered, Ling had already widened her eyes. Just because the young master said that they did business on both sides, Wang Sheng could immediately guess large-scale weapons and medicinal ingredients. What's wrong with this guy's brain? Or was it that he had received such training? Otherwise, how could he casually think of so many profitable businesses? I don't even dare to talk to you easily. LV Wenho was also shocked, but it was relatively acceptable. He just kept complaining, can't you give people a chance to show off? Then you have to be careful in the future. Wang Sheng smiled at LV Wenho. Be careful of what? Linger, it was the most concerned about her young master, so she rushed to ask before LV Wenho. If Baoqin Yutang wants to die, it won't take too long for him to play himself to death. Wang Sheng explained with a smile. At that time, the Imperial Treasure House will be dominant. Won't you be in danger? Without Baoqin Yutang, the Imperial Treasure House would naturally be the exclusive business. All the problems that Baoqin Yutang had to face, the Imperial Treasure House also had to face. I can't deceive you. LV Wenho smiled bitterly. Can't you be a little stupid? Wang Sheng also smiled bitterly and shook his head. This economic knowledge was learned from newspapers and TV. Who knew that it could fool LV Wenho? Tell me, what's the purpose of your visit this time? Wang Sheng no longer beat around the bush with LV Wenho and asked. It's the thing that you want me to be careful about. LV Wenho said his purpose with a strange expression on his face. I don't understand. Wang Sheng shook his head. The woman of Baoqin Yutang asked me to bring you a message. LV Wenho didn't have the consciousness of a messenger and took the initiative to say, she has something that you will be interested in, but you have to take her away from Baoqin Yutang. Wang Sheng's heart moved, but his face remained calm and asked, what is it? Can she guarantee that I will be interested? LV Wenho looked at Wang Sheng and decided to reveal the female owner's bargaining chip. She knows the distribution of the magic formations in the core region of the grounds of Thousand Despair. If you are willing, you can find a way to enter the core region from these magic formations. Enter the core of the ground of despair? Wang Sheng was excited. He really wanted to enter the core area as soon as possible, but this time he and the old Taoist found that it was not so easy. There were various reasons, but the most important one was that some of the formation inside did not fail. Now that there was a distribution map, he could find a way to enter the formation. For Wang Sheng, it was a great temptation. How can I take her away from Bao Qing Yutang? Wang Sheng asked calmly. She said that as long as you agree to Bao Qing Yutang's request this time, it will be fine. LV Wenho seemed to know a lot of things. He was just a messenger, and even the message was not very clear. Chapter 377. Does this have anything to do with what we talked about before? Wang Sheng did not forget what LV Wenho had said before and asked with a frown. Was there any inevitable connection between taking the female owner away from Bao Qing Yutang and the crisis that the Imperial Treasury may face? As long as you take her away from Bao Qing Yutang, then even if Bao Qing Yutang falls, she can still support Bao Qing Yutang. LV Wenho had an advantage. He was frank enough when talking to Wang Sheng. As long as she can still support Bao Qing Yutang, then the Imperial Treasury will never be the only big one, and the worries you mentioned will not exist. Wang Sheng looked at LV Wenho speechlessly for a while. You are competitors, okay? Is there anyone who does business like this? Saving a competitor? But Wang Sheng still had to admire LV Wenho. This guy was not only smart, but also had a big heart. As Wang Sheng had read on Earth, the bigger the heart, the bigger the stage. LV Wenho's stage was definitely bigger than the group of people who were in power in Bao Qing Yutang. The two continued to drink for a while, and LV Wenho got up and left with Ling. His main purpose of coming here had been achieved, so there was no need to disturb Wang Sheng. However, LV Wenho left, and the sky was dark, but Wang Sheng's plan of peace was still in vain. As soon as LV Wenho's carriage left, when Wang Sheng returned to the courtyard, the shadow old eunuch had appeared on the wall. Now that the old Taoist was still living in Wang Sheng's courtyard, the shadow old eunuch did not dare to put on airs in front of a senior red card killer. The shadow old eunuch's cultivation was at most at the peak of the 7th degree realm. After so many years, it was unknown whether he had broken through to the 8th degree realm. However, the old Taoist had casually killed 3 8th degree realm experts outside the city. There was no comparison between the two. Until now, the sects with the 3 8th-stage experts were still regretting sending out those 3 hotheads, offending Wang Sheng for no reason. Fortunately, Wang Sheng was too lazy to pursue it. If the Imperial Treasury set up a threshold for them to not let their people enter that camp, they would cry to death. With the old Taoist standing guard, even if the old shadow eunuch was given 100 guts, he would not dare to casually jump into Wang Sheng's courtyard. Even because the old Taoist was there, the people outside could not hear all the sounds in the courtyard. Only when LV Wenho's voice was a little loud outside the door did the people around know that LV Wenho had left. It was rare for the old eunuch to be so polite and wait for Wang Sheng to invite him over. Wang Sheng did not make things difficult for the old eunuch and called out to the old eunuch, "Come drink." Although he had already drunk 2 rounds of wine, which could catch up to the amount of beer on Earth, but Wang Sheng still had to drink with the old eunuch again. Seeing that Wang Sheng treated him the same as before, the old eunuch was slightly relieved. After jumping over and clinking glasses with Wang Sheng, he couldn't wait to take out the things he wanted to give to Wang Sheng. Wang Sheng picked up an exquisite gold medallion that the old eunuch had pushed over from the stone table and carefully admired it for a while. Only then did he feel the patterns on it that were meticulously crafted by master craftsmen. He asked the old eunuch, "What is this?" The 3 words on the back are Marquis Changsheng. The old eunuch knew that Wang Sheng did not know this kind of seal character, so he specially explained to Wang Sheng, "The emperor gave you the title of Marquis." "The emperor actually gave me the title of Marquis?" Wang Sheng stared at the old eunuch with wide eyes, as if to see if he was joking. As far as Wang Sheng knew, there were only a few people in the world who could be conferred the title of Marquis. Song Tang, Qiu Shidai, plus Xia Fenggan, the Duke of Song. The remaining 7 were all Marquis, and the last one was Marquis Wuyo. In other words, there were only 8 Marquis in the world. At this time, the emperor suddenly gave me the title of Marquis? What kind of joke was this? It was not that Wang Sheng was belittling himself, but among these 8 marquises, apart from Marquis Wuyo, It was because his territory was special. Which of the other marquises did not have thousands of miles of land and tens of millions of people? When it came to wealth, they easily beat Wang Sheng by 18 streets. What about Wang Sheng himself? He had neither the people nor the land. He could barely be considered rich among the ordinary people or cultivators. But compared to the 8 marquises, even the weakest Marquis Wuyo could make Wang Sheng feel ashamed. Under these conditions, the emperor still dared to confer the title of Marquis. Wasn't his intention to rope in Wang Sheng too blatantly? Wasn't he afraid that the other vassal states would be unhappy? The emperor said that if Marquis Changsheng wants to make it public, the emperor will make it public. If you don't want to make it public, the emperor will keep it a secret. The old shadow eunuch's mission this time was to convey goodwill to Wang Sheng, as well as to reward Wang Sheng for his previous contributions. This was to prevent Wang Sheng from being disloyal and ungrateful, so he spoke especially politely. If not for the old shadow eunuch's repeated confirmation, he would not dare to believe his own ears. In the past, the imperial family was in decline, so of course they did not dare to reveal anything. Now that the emperor's reputation was like the sun in the sky, he actually had to seek Wang Sheng's opinion on whether he was willing to make it public or not. This courtesy was simply maddening. Others aside, just take the old eunuch himself. He was also someone who had been conferred a marquis by the emperor based on his merits. But the emperor had only secretly praised him and had never asked for his opinion. Even this old eunuch felt that the heavens were boundless, and he had kowtowed countless times in the direction of the imperial city. But when it came to Wang Sheng, he still had to seek Wang Sheng's opinion. Moreover, he had given him a marquis. It was simply frightening. Then let's not make it public for now. Wang Sheng held the gold medal in his hand and stroked it. In the old eunuch's view, he was excited because of the marquis title, but little did he know that Wang Sheng only admired this gold medal as a piece of art passed down from generation to generation. The two people's positions and identities were different, and their knowledge and experience were different. They considered the same matter from completely different angles. The capital has specially prepared a marquis manor for you. Marquis. It's 100 acres of land in the imperial city. The old eunuch continued to express the goodwill of the imperial family. But I didn't receive your opinion, so it has not been made public. The palace maids and eunuchs that the emperor has bestowed upon you are all present, and all kinds of treasures have been moved into the marquis' manor. When the time comes, you can bring this token to your door and take over the manor at any time. Wang Sheng nodded. 100 acres of land in the capital, more than 60,000 square meters, not bad. There are also all kinds of treasures, palace maids, and eunuchs. The configuration was truly complete. It was a pity that Wang Sheng didn't know if he would have the opportunity to enter this marquis' manor to enjoy. There is also a 2,000 acres of land in the outskirts of the capital, and it has also been allocated to Marquis' name. This was not the end. The old eunuch waited for Wang Sheng to digest the first few things before speaking of the latter rewards. Every year, the output of this manor will be handed over to the Marquis' manor. You could take it at any time. Even though Wang Sheng didn't care about the emperor's rewards, after hearing this series of events, he couldn't help but say that the emperor had really put in a lot of effort to rope him in. Chapter 378. Treasures and the like were all one-time rewards. But the estate was different. The output of the estate was annual. In other words, this was a long-term source of income. Even if Wang Sheng did nothing from today on, just relying on this 2,000 acres of estate was enough for him to eat, drink, and be merry without having to worry about the future. From this point, it could be seen that the imperial family was really serious. Whether it was to win over Wang Sheng or to reward his previous contributions, the imperial family could be said to have shown enough sincerity. Wang Sheng thought that this was all, so he picked up his wine cup and clinked it with the old eunuch again. But the old eunuch did not clinch his cup with Wang Sheng and continued to speak. Oldly specially reported to the emperor. The emperor had people copy 100 secret cultivation manuals from the imperial family and sent them to the marquis' residence. The old shadow eunuch was completely relaying. He spoke very slowly and clearly to ensure that Wang Sheng could understand. If the Marquis is interested, you can go to the Marquis's residence to take a look. The imperial family was afraid that Wang Sheng would not take the Marquis's residence seriously. Not going to the capital or the Marquis's residence, they actually came up with such a big move to seduce Wang Sheng. It had to be said that they really put in a lot of effort. However, Wang Sheng smiled bitterly. He had originally not planned to go to the Marquis's residence, but now that these secret cultivation manuals of the imperial family had appeared, it seemed that Wang Sheng really had to go. He had mastered the forwarding formula, and his battle consciousness had split into 16. Didn't he need these cultivation manuals? What was this? Had he been successfully schemed against by the imperial family? Or had he been schemed against by the imperial family? Whatever, it was not a bad thing for the time being. He would think about it when the time came. There would always be a way out. Oldly, Wang Sheng also heard the old eunuch say this word. Of course, Wang Sheng knew that Oldly was that old eunuch Oldly who had come last time. But did he play a role in this? Oldly also asked me to bring you a message. Hearing Wang Sheng ask about Senior Li, the old shadow eunuch hastily explained. He said that he had offended him in the previous matter, but it was also because of his position. He asked the Marquis to forgive him. From the way the old shadow eunuch saw it, Elderly was probably talking about the commander who had tried to control Wang Sheng. Even after all this time, Elderly was still apologizing to Wang Sheng for that person. But Wang Sheng could hear the hidden meaning in Eunuch Li's words. What he said had nothing to do with the commander at all. Instead, he was giving him pointers while Wang Sheng was concentrating on his cultivation. Old Eunuch Li had indeed done something wrong. If it weren't for Wang Sheng's combat awareness and personal combat terminal, he might have been deceived by Old Eunuch Li. Since the old eunuch could put down his pride and specially bring a message to apologize to Wang Sheng naturally wouldn't go too far. If there's a chance, pass a message to Old Li. When I go to the capital, I'll invite him to the Marquis's residence for a drink. Wang Sheng's words were definitely good news for the old shadow eunuch. On one hand, it meant that Wang Sheng would not pursue the matter of Old Li's apology. On the other hand, it meant that Wang Sheng had accepted the Marquis's residence in the capital. This was equivalent to the relationship between Wang Sheng and the Son of Heaven getting closer. For the Son of Heaven, it was definitely good news. I will definitely bring it. Even if the old shadow eunuch's cultivation had reached the level of the old shadow eunuch, after hearing Wang Sheng's words, he was so excited that his voice almost trembled. It could only be said that the old eunuch's loyalty to the royal family had reached a jaw-dropping level. He was excited to be able to do something for the royal family. You can drink now. Wang Sheng smiled and raised his wine cup. This time, the old eunuch didn't say anything else. He raised his wine cup and clinked it with Wang Sheng's cup before downing it in one gulp. Then, he took the initiative to reach out for the wine pot and fill their cups. Also, the old eunuch had just opened his mouth to say 2 words when he was hurriedly interrupted by Wang Sheng. He asked in surprise, Also. The old eunuch nodded affirmatively and replied, It's about the fiefdom. You are now the Marquis. How can you not have a fiefdom? Wang Sheng was completely speechless. The royal family was planning to pay a big price to greet him. What were they after? For the time being, Wang Sheng couldn't think of the royal family's intention other than to rope him in. However, Wang Sheng was completely attracted by the fiefdom that the old shadow eunuch mentioned. In this world, after being divided by the big and small vassal states, was there still a place for Wang Sheng to be a fiefdom? Thinking of this, Wang Sheng directly asked. Yes, the old shadow eunuch laughed. Of course there is, and it's not small. Are you joking? Wang Sheng also laughed. The world is indeed not small, but which vassal state is willing to give up their territory? Do you want me to conquer it? I'm not joking. The old shadow eunuch kept Wang Sheng in suspense. Seeing that Wang Sheng was so confused, he immediately felt much happier. He laughed heartily. Marquis, you were in the middle of the situation and just didn't think of it. As soon as the old eunuch mentioned that he was in the middle of the situation, Wang Sheng immediately understood. The ground of thousand despair? You mean the ground of thousand despair? Seeing the old shadow eunuch smile and nod, Wang Sheng's heart was once again stirred. He was indeed in the middle of the situation and had not thought of the ground of thousand despair in the first place. Now that he thought about it, it wasn't surprising at all. It was both reasonable and expected. Apart from the capital, where else could the Son of Heaven award? The places that could be awarded had already been occupied by the vassal states. As Wang Sheng said, unless Wang Sheng conquered it himself, there was no place to award. But the ground of thousand despair was different. It did not belong to any vassal state. Not only that, other than Wang Sheng, even if the old Taoist wanted to enter the ground of thousand despair now, it might not be as easy as Wang Sheng. In the whole world, excluding the camp of the imperial treasury and the road, only Wang Sheng and the old Taoist could freely enter and exit the ground of thousand despair. The Son of Heaven actually awarded the ground of thousand despair to Wang Sheng. It was probably to restrict the major vassal states' infiltration of the ground of thousand despair. Anyway, it was an area that the Son of Heaven could not control, so it didn't matter who he gave it to. It could also be used by Wang Sheng to keep the vassal states in check. This plan couldn't be any better. In this way, no matter what Wang Sheng did in the ground of thousand despair, no one would be able to say anything. This was Wang Sheng's fief. He could do whatever he wanted. As long as Wang Sheng was willing to disclose his marquis identity, he could have such convenience. This was also a soft knife to tempt or force Wang Sheng to disclose his marquis identity and rely on the royal family. As expected of the royal family, they were really proficient in this kind of method. The problem was, would Wang Sheng be willing to disclose it? If he did, what would be the advantages and disadvantages for him? The Son of Heaven just gave me the ground of thousand despair without saying anything. Wang Sheng pondered for a moment. He didn't agree or disagree, but just asked. Of course not. The shadow old eunuch replied confidently. There is an edict written by the Son of Heaven here. The edict is already in the Son of Heaven's secret archives. The historian also has a secret history record. When you take it out, it will be the official title. Chapter 379. Along with the old shadow eunuch's words, an exquisitely rolled-up yellow edict appeared. Wang Sheng did not stand on ceremony. He took it and opened it. Then he was stunned. On the imperial edict, a large paragraph of content was written neatly and clearly in small, neat characters. Although Wang Sheng's foundation in ancient Chinese wasn't very good, he could still tell that it was what the old eunuch meant. This edict is written in regular script. Wang Sheng asked calmly. Oh, the old shadow eunuch looked at Wang Sheng in a new light. After looking at Wang Sheng from head to toe for a while, he said in surprise, I didn't expect you to know regular script even though you've been in the land of thousand despair for almost a year. From the construction of the camp to Wang Sheng's comprehension of the Buddhist incantation of 9 syllables, it had been almost a year. This was why the old eunuch was surprised. Wang Sheng, who looked like a warrior killer, was actually concerned about the font that these literate scholars were concerned about. It was really strange. However, the old eunuch had lived in the palace and was more or less influenced by the style of the officials. He naturally came into contact with regular script, which had suddenly become famous in the past few years. He didn't dare to say that he could calm down and practice calligraphy, but he should at least be able to understand the content of the edict. Fortunately, as long as one could understand the clerical script in the martial arts secret books, most of them could understand regular script. These two types of characters didn't change the text too much. They only changed the structure of the frame and the strokes. Not to mention how much effort the learned scholars had put in during this period, at least in the eyes of the old eunuch. These characters were easier to read. Obviously, Wang Sheng had already said the name of the regular script, so of course he knew regular script. You don't pay much attention to the literary world. The old shadow eunuch seemed to suddenly have the capital to brag. The appearance of regular script is a grand event in the literary world in the past few years. All the scholars in the world are practicing calligraphy like a carnival. It has become a trend. These days, if one doesn't know how to write a few strokes of regular script, he won't be able to survive in the literary circle. Speaking of this, the old eunuch seemed to have found a sense of superiority over Wang Sheng. At least, he felt that he knew more and began to talk incessantly. It is said that in the beginning, this was a calligraphy created by ancestor Ling Su of the Laojun Temple. In order to nourish his qi, he copied Taoist scriptures for decades before creating this calligraphy. It was rare for the old eunuch to be able to share some gossip with someone in the worry-free city, especially the gossip of the capital city. The old eunuch spoke with exultation. Old Taoist Ling Su was resting alone in his room. No one knew how he felt when he heard this. He probably wouldn't know whether to laugh or cry. Wang Sheng was looking forward to seeing the expression on the face of the old Taoist. He wanted to see how dignified he looked with the title of the inventor of regular script. Ha ha! The old shadow eunuch couldn't imagine the prank in Wang Sheng's heart at all. He was still happily boasting. The first time regular script appeared was in the Three Purities Temple. Did you know? 3 statues of Lao Jun, which were more than 100 feet high, appeared out of thin air overnight. The disciples of the Taoist sects all over the world came to pay a pilgrimage like crazy. On the left and right side of each statue of Lao Jun, there was a pair of Taoist couplets carved in regular script. The more the old eunuch spoke, the more he danced. He even put on the posture of the sitting statue of Lao Jun that he had heard of, as if he had seen it with his own eyes. As soon as the couplets appeared, they alarmed a cabinet elder in the capital city. Within a short month, it was said that all the people in the capital who had read and written had gone there to worship. It was a grand event in the literary world, unprecedented. After saying that, the old eunuch looked at Wang Sheng's dumbfounded expression and couldn't help but say, "In just over a year, regular script has spread all over the world. Even you know it. You can imagine how widespread it is." The expression on Wang Sheng's face became more and more constipated, as if he was holding something back. In short, it looked very awkward. On the other hand, the old eunuch didn't see Wang Sheng's expression at all. He spoke more and more excitedly, and his mouth almost couldn't stop. It's also that ancestor Ling Su. It is said that he's been copying Taoist scriptures in the Laojun Temple for decades or even hundreds of years. Only such an immortal-like figure can write such a square and straight model book. Don't look at those old men who have read until their hair is white and say that they are knowledgeable. In terms of calligraphy skills, they can't compare to this ancestor Ling Su. From the old eunuch's words, Wang Sheng could hear that the old eunuch held the old Taoist Ling Su in high esteem. The tone of worship was like that of an idol, which made Wang Sheng feel strange. You're a dignified 7th-grade green plate assassin. You don't need to worship an old Taoist who copied scripture so much, right? Thinking that it was interesting, Wang Sheng also asked casually, "Bullshit. What do you mean by old Taoist who copied scriptures?" The shadow old eunuch's expression changed faster than flipping a book. "That's ancestor Ling Su. What do you know?" Wang Sheng cooperatively widened his eyes, as if he was asking about the identity of old Taoist Ling Su. Ancestor Ling Su is at least 190 years old. His cultivation is divine. The shadow old eunuch really worshipped the old Taoist. When he talked about the old Taoist, he spoke in a protective tone. The #1 expert in the Laojun Temple. In the whole world, he is also a rare super expert. You ask all the vassal states in the world, which one dares to say that they have an expert who could be compared to ancestor Ling Su? Let me tell you, not a single one. What else could Wang Sheng say when he met a fan, a 7th or possibly even 8th-stage expert fan? If he was unhappy with what he said, wouldn't the other party fall out with him? Wang Sheng had seen those groupies on Earth. He didn't expect to meet an expert groupie here. Along the way, he held back his laughter and patiently listened to the old eunuch's worship of ancestor Ling Su. The old eunuch also drank enough wine and chattered enough nonsense. Only then did he jump over the wall in satisfaction and go back to his home to sleep, leaving Wang Sheng alone, holding back his laughter, ready to see the ancestor Ling Su that the old eunuch worshipped so much. All the words outside, the old Taoist had heard them clearly. If what Marquis LV Wen Ho and the others said was normal, the old Taoist could ignore it. But the second half of the old eunuch's words made the old Taoist unable to sit still, especially when the old eunuch was praising ancestor High Void in front of Wang Sheng, the true inventor of the regular script. It made the old Taoist feel extremely awkward. Fortunately, Wang Sheng didn't intend to do anything bad. He just wanted to discuss some things with the old Taoist. But the old Taoist's face was red and a little ashamed. The creator of regular script was the initiative of the literati in the capital to put him on his head. The old Taoist refused for a long time, but couldn't refuse it. Old Taoist, what do you think of the Son of Heaven's reward? Wang Sheng didn't mention those things at all. He opened his mouth and asked directly. Chapter 380. Wang Sheng did not need to ask the old Taoist if he knew what the emperor had given. The old Taoist must have heard it clearly from the room. He only needed to ask for his opinion. The royal family has been quiet for years, but this time they are smart. They created the emperor's enfeoffment of the feudal vassals. The royal family has become the emperor, and their reputation has increased. Their right to speak has also increased. Although the old Taoist did not participate much in politics, he had lived for a long time and had seen all kinds of tricks. His words were straight to the heart of the matter. But no matter what, the power of the feudal vassals has also increased. If the royal family still wants to stir up trouble at this time, they have to be careful of the feudal vassals' counterattack. Since he had started, the old Taoist did not hold back. He was in the Grand Sage's temple, not in the game. A bystander could see more clearly. Anyway, it's a new round of the game. It's just a matter of who is more resourceful. The royal family has the upper hand at the beginning, but what happens in the future depends on the response of the vassal states. It will definitely be chaos. It will depend on who is more powerful and luckier. That's all. Wang Sheng nodded and agreed with the old Taoist. This was also the purpose of his suggestion. It was to make the situation chaotic so that he could get what he wanted in the chaos. The enfeoffment of the feudal vassals looks like the emperor's status has improved, but it is actually regressing. The royal family only sees the benefits on the surface, but they did not think that there would be a monopoly among the vassal states. The old Taoist hit the nail on the head and pointed out the drawbacks of the enfeoffment system. Wang Sheng could not help but look at him in a different light. On Earth, there was a unified imperial power after the enfeoffment system. Now it was reversed. It was indeed a regression. Only the old Taoist could see the problem at a glance. Including the royal family and the ministers, none of them could see it. Or perhaps they could see it, but no one said a word to the emperor. Speaking of which, why did the royal family give you such a high reward? This was what the old Taoist was puzzled about. He knew that Wang Sheng had a deal with the royal family. Was it because the royal family had obtained something good when they entered the land of thousand despair? Becoming a marquis, there were only 8 marquises in the whole world. Adding Wang Sheng's ever-victorious marquis, that would be the 9th. He even gave the land of thousand despair to Wang Sheng as a fief. Compared to these two things, the Marquis Manor and the Imperial Plantation were just extras that were not worth mentioning. I was the one who told the old monster of the royal family about the emperor's enfeoffment of vassals, and he related to the royal family. Wang Sheng did not hide anything from the old Taoist and told him the reason with a smile. The old Taoist's eyes widened as he looked at Wang Sheng in disbelief, as if he was looking at a monster that had come out of nowhere. After a while, he let out a long sigh. Then he stretched out his hand and grabbed Wang Sheng's arm at lightning speed. A wave of spiritual energy was transferred from the old Taoist's hand into Wang Sheng's body. Wang Sheng was caught off guard. Before he could react, the old Taoist had succeeded. Of course, he could not defend against it. He could only watch helplessly as the powerful spiritual energy from the old Taoist circled around his body and returned to the old Taoist's hand. If I could not be sure that you were a young man, I would definitely think that you are an old monster from somewhere. The old Taoist's eyes were filled with indescribable horror. The words that came out his mouth made Wang Sheng feel ashamed. Tell me, what else can't you do? The emperor enfeoffment of vassals, regular script, the 9 syllables mantra, the Tao Te Ching. Any one of them is an idea that can shake the world. Who are you? Wang Sheng was indeed ashamed. None of the things that the old Taoist had said that could shake the world were his real originals. They were all history on earth. If he had to use an accurate description, it would be that Wang Sheng had the wisdom of a planet. How many of them had he taken out? How much was that? He had not even included the big business of sugar and refined salt. Wang Sheng was too lazy to answer the old Taoist question. Who else could I be? I am me. Now that the old Taoist was in a rare moment of excitement, it did not prevent Wang Sheng from appreciating it. In the future, he would also have something to laugh at the old Taoist. I lost my composure. The old Taoist recovered very quickly. When he found that Wang Sheng was looking at him with deep meaning, the old Taoist only took 2 deep breaths and became calm, no different from his usual self. After recovering, the old Taoist asked again, "What are you planning by making such a big commotion?" The old Taoist was more curious about this question. The core of the land of thousand despair. Wang Sheng still did not hide and directly answered his goal. The martial will of the core? The old Taoist frowned. Don't tell me that you want to go inside to comprehend the 9 syllables mantra, because you have comprehended the 9 syllables mantra. Can't I? Wang Sheng asked, puzzled. Even if he did not talk about the girl in his dreams, this reason could not be more justifiable, right? Was there a problem? With your level of cultivation, you can only play around on the outer mountain wall. Faced with Wang Sheng's question, the old Taoist looked at Wang Sheng with disdain. As for that martial will, you can talk about it after your cultivation has risen to the 8th stage. For the current you, it would be a great stroke of luck if you can get within 10 miles of it without getting injured. If you go any further, just the aura will be able to crush you to death. The old Taoist judgment would not be wrong. He definitely had the right to speak on this point. Having felt the martial will at the edge of the core area at a close distance, the old Taoist knew better than anyone else how powerful it was. I just want to go in and take a look. Wang Sheng's gaze suddenly became distant. The beautiful eyes of the girl in his dreams seemed to appear before his eyes once again, with a faintly discernible aura, and the words "kill me" were still coming out her mouth. Up to you. The old Taoist knew that Wang Sheng was determined and could not be persuaded, nor did he intend to. In order to enter the core area of the land of thousand despair, Wang Sheng had even created a feudal vassal, causing chaos in the world. How could the old Taoist dissuade him with words? Unless the old Taoist made a move to imprison Wang Sheng, there was no way to stop Wang Sheng. Are you tempted by Bao Qing Yu Tang's suggestion? Wang Sheng asked again. He had agreed with the old Taoist that he would only let the old Taoist accompany him to build the camp in the land of thousand despair. Not only had the old Taoist accompanied him to build the camp, but he had also cultivated with him for more than 4 months. This had already exceeded the agreement. If Bao Qing Yutang had the help of the old Taoist in his search for the ruins, it would definitely be much easier and more relaxing. From the depths of his heart, Wang Sheng still hoped that the old Taoist would come along. Sigh. The old Taoist let out a long sigh, shook his head, and said, "I won't be going this time. I'll have to make a trip back and leave the 9 symbolic words and the first chapter of the Tao Te Ching in the Laojun Temple. Bao Qing Yutang is just a businessman. You can settle it by yourself. I won't get involved." Chapter 381. Just a businessman? Wang Sheng really wanted to sit down and have a serious discussion with the old Taoist priest. He wanted to see how far a successful business could go. Did he know who had invested in the father of the first emperor of China back on Earth? Lu Buwei, a person who ran a business of selling rare goods, was also just a businessman. There was no way he could argue with the old Taoist about this kind of thing. This was not the opinion of the old Taoist alone. It could be said that it was the opinion of the whole world. If Wang Sheng wanted to argue about this, who knew how many people he would have to argue with every day? In the heart of the old Taoist, whether it was the 9 words mantra or the first chapter of the Tao Te Ching, They were all much more important than the female owner of Baoqing Yutang. Although the female owner had used the map to enter the core of the grounds of Thousand Despair to tempt Wang Sheng, how could it possibly tempt the old Taoist? Wang Sheng himself was also very clear that the female owner of Baoqing Yutang's map of the grounds of Thousand Despair was at most 50 li from the edge of the core. It was impossible for her to have a more detailed map. If the map of the grounds of Thousand Despair's core could be so easily obtained, Baoqing Yutang would not be the Baoqing Yutang he was now. Whatever, the old Taoist could go back if he wanted to. In any case, the next time Wang Sheng wanted to ask the old Taoist for help, he could just use the later chapters of the Tao Te Ching to exchange with him. The Tao Te Ching had 81 chapters. Wang Sheng had only memorized 6 chapters for the old Taoist. There were still 75 chapters left. It was enough to trouble the old Taoist many times. This time, the old Taoist was protecting Wang Sheng. After returning to Carefree City, the old Taoist did not need to worry about Wang Sheng's safety. After resting for a night, the old Taoist left Carefree City in a hurry, leaving Wang Sheng alone. After his morning exercise, Wang Sheng leisurely enjoyed a sumptuous breakfast. Then, he slowly strolled to the former city lord's mansion, which was now the palace. He asked the palace guards to report to his elder brother, the butler. Wang Sheng was a famous person in Carefree City. Which guard did not know of him? As soon as the request was made, someone quickly ran in to report. Not long after, the butler quickly appeared at the entrance of the palace. From afar, he smiled at Wang Sheng, who was standing at the door. After a warm greeting, Wang Sheng explained the purpose of his visit. After thinking about it yesterday, I still think that Baoqing Yutang's mission is worth a try. Wang Sheng smiled and said to the butler, I'll have to trouble you to report this to the Marquis and make this a mission for our worry-free city. I'll accept it when the time comes. The butler was smiling so widely that his eyes could not be found. The fact that Wang Sheng specially came over to say that he agreed to take on this mission was equivalent to gaining a favor from the Castellan, especially when Wang Sheng specifically requested to make this mission a mission for Carefree City. This was to show that Wang Sheng only trusted Carefree City and not Baoqing Yutang one-sidedly. With one look, one could tell that he was on the same side. Otherwise, why would he refer to Carefree City as Carefree City? This matter still needed a period of time. During this period, Wang Sheng could take a stroll around Carefree City and rest. Walking on the street of Carefree City's Assassin's Hall, Wang Sheng finally understood how exaggerated the old shadow eunuch's words about the popularity of regular script was. Basically, as long as there was a plaque or a signboard, all the shops in Carefree City had been replaced with a regular script signboard. The previous official script and seal script had almost all disappeared. Even some century-old shops like the Imperial Treasure House Baoqing Yutang hung the old official script signboard above and hung a new regular script signboard below. Such a configuration made Wang Sheng shake his head. How could it be so exaggerated? However, Wang Sheng did not care so much about other people's business. He just walked and looked around. When passing by the Imperial Treasure House, Wang Sheng also deliberately entered the Imperial Treasure House to get a pot of fragrant tea from them. He did not buy anything. If this was on Earth, he would definitely be scolded to death by the waiters in charge of reception. However, when the Imperial Treasure House saw Wang Sheng coming in, they directly sent a long-legged and big-breasted maid to serve him. Without saying anything, she gave Wang Sheng whatever he wanted. Looking at the situation, even if Wang Sheng asked for this maid, the Imperial Treasure House would probably send her to his door. This made Wang Sheng feel embarrassed to stay any longer. Staying in a land of thousand despair for a few months. Even if Wang Sheng had the 9 words Buddhist incantation and the old Taoist by his side, his nerves were tense all the time. His instinctive vigilance could never be reduced due to any factors. After being on tenterhooks for the past few months, Wang Sheng could only feel relatively safe in Carefree City. Only then could he relax a little. Strolling out of the Imperial Treasure House, Wang Sheng slowly strolled to the Assassin Hall. Although he now had Sister Rosa to serve him, Wang Sheng still enjoyed this relaxed walk. Coming to the Assassin Hall, Wang Sheng, of course, had something to do. Sister Rosa quickly greeted Wang Sheng and led him to the VIP room of the Assassin Hall. The Palace Lord of Triumphant Return Palace has no title. Wang Sheng looked at Sister Rosa and couldn't help but ask. Yes, Duke of Triumphant Return. Sister Rosa replied with a smile. In the future, I will be a person of Triumphant Return country. Triumphant Return Palace is no longer a hidden sect. This time, the hidden sects did not escape the temptation of the Emperor's title, and all of them jumped out. In the past, these hidden sects also contributed greatly to the destruction of the Lin family. Of course, the royal family was aware of this. This time, all the forces were pulled to the surface, but it was easier to deal with them than in the past when they hid in the dark. He believed that all parties must have considered these issues. Of course, Wang Sheng wouldn't say anything. They just met and greeted each other. Wang Sheng had never treated Sister Rosa as one of his own people. Can you contact the Feng family? Wang Sheng and Sister Rosa didn't stand on ceremony. After exchanging a few words of greeting, Wang Sheng asked the purpose of his visit. Worry-free city, sure. Sister Rosa was originally a chess piece of Triumphant Return Palace in Worry-free City. She had contact with various forces, so of course she could get in touch with the Feng family. Give this to them and ask them what they want. Wang Sheng took out his entire set of 8-stage demonic beast skin protective clothing, folded it together, and placed it on the table in front of Sister Rosa. This set of protective clothing was a gift that the Feng family had specially given to Wang Sheng to thank him for bringing out the Feng family's younger generation. When the Song family's Death Warriors launched their attacks, the protective clothing had been pierced through twice. Moreover, the parts that were pierced had become brittle. It would be strange if this protective clothing wasn't tampered with. The last time he returned to Worry-Free City, Wang Sheng was busy and couldn't find trouble with the Feng family. Now that Wang Sheng had sent the protective clothing back to the Feng family, he wanted to seek an explanation from them. They couldn't silently plot against Wang Sheng with the Song family and treat it as if nothing had happened, right? How could there be such a good thing in this world? Chapter 382. Along with the protective suit, there was also a sharp awl and a chisel. These were the weapons left behind by the Song family's Death Warriors. These were the weapons that could pierce through the protective suit. Sister Rosa stared blankly for a moment, but then she seemed to have thought of something. She picked up the protective suit and shook it open to take a look. Immediately, she saw the 2 holes on the chest and ribs, and her expression changed. After staying in Carefree City for so long, although Sister Rosa's cultivation didn't rise very high, her eyesight was top-notch. She didn't even need to touch the material near the 2 holes to know that it must have been tampered with. Needless to say, the sharp awl and chisel were the weapons. I'll send it to them now. Although Sister Rosa was a member of Triumph Palace, this didn't prevent her from delivering the things to the Feng family as Wang Sheng's personal attendant. Carrying the weapons and the protective suit, Sister Rosa walked out of the VIP lounge and left the Assassin Hall, heading straight for the Feng family's residence. As for Wang Sheng himself, he strolled around the Assassin Hall for a while, then went out and went to Bao Qing Yutang. As expected, the shopkeeper of Bao Qing Yutang had changed again. He was no longer the scowling expert who questioned Wang Sheng the last time they met. Instead, he was replaced by a slightly plump guy with a face full of smiles. He would smile whenever he saw someone. It seemed like he was much more comfortable than the previous one. Even though he hadn't seen Wang Sheng before, this new shopkeeper greeted him warmly. Knowing Wang Sheng's identity, the shop assistant served him even more attentively. In Bao Qing Yutang, Wang Sheng looked around and felt for a while. Although the business of Bao Qing Yutang didn't seem to have changed, Wang Sheng always felt that there was a gap. Perhaps it was a psychological factor. When Wang Sheng was leisurely strolling home from Bao Qing Yutang, the phones had already received the protective suit sent by Sister Rosa. The protective suit was originally custom-made for an elder of the Feng family, but before he could enjoy it, he had no choice but to give it to Wang Sheng to repay Wang Sheng and the others for saving the descendant of the Feng family from the Qinju zone. The Feng family's logo in the hidden corner was still there. Moreover, Sister Rosa had already said that it was Wang Sheng who sent it over. No one was a fool. When the Feng family received the gift, they opened it and found that something was wrong. What did the two fatal holes in his chest and ribs mean? They were all cultivation experts who had killed countless people. They could tell at a glance how dangerous it was for these two positions to be attacked like this. It could be said that if it wasn't for Wang Sheng's other means, Wang Sheng's life would have been taken twice. Of course, the Feng family also sent people to participate in the construction of the camp. It was no secret that Wang Sheng was attacked in the camp. At that time, the master of the Feng family thought that Wang Sheng was protected by the old Taoist and was safe. This was also the news that came back. Now that he saw the protective suit, he knew that things were not so simple. In the situation where all the families were cooperating with the camp of the Imperial Treasury, it was not a small matter if Wang Sheng misunderstood that it was the Feng family who sent the men of sacrifice to assassinate him. The people of the Feng family in Worry-Free City did not dare to neglect. They quickly sent the news back to the Feng family with the highest level of messenger bird, asking Marquis Feng to make a decision. Marquis Feng had been very successful this year. He was a marquis and divided the country, but he also knew the importance of the camp in the land of Thousand Despair. There were already about 20 Feng family disciples cultivating in the camp. The letter that was brought back recently said that in less than half a year, there were already nearly 10 disciples who had advanced in cultivation. Such an obvious effect made all parties unable to stop. At this juncture, the news from Worry-Free City came back that Wang Sheng wanted an explanation from the Feng family. Even Marquis Feng couldn't help but pay attention to it. The protective suit and the two weapons were still on the way back to the state of Feng, but the state of Feng had begun to secretly investigate all the Feng family disciples and craftsmen who had participated in that year. Marquis Feng had to pay attention to it. This protective suit was custom-made for the Great Elder at that time. No one knew that it would be given to Wang Sheng later. Therefore, it was tampered with, which meant that it was very likely that the men of sacrifice were targeting the Great Elder from the beginning. Even if it was clearly targeting Wang Sheng, it also showed that there was an undercover agent from the Song family inside the Feng family. It was clear that the men of sacrifice were sent by the Song family. Even if it was not clear, it had already been planted on the Song family. During the time when the protective suit was being handed over, the Song family was able to tamper with it. This could only mean that the position of the undercover agent in the Feng family was not low. Whether it was targeting the Great Elder or Wang Sheng, it was not good news for the Feng family. The men of sacrifice from the Song family either wanted to kill our Great Elder or tamper with the gifts we gave. What was the meaning of this? After a few days, the protective suit was sent to Marquis Feng and the ministers of the state of Feng. Looking at the two holes and the two sharp weapons, the Great Elder broke out in a cold sweat. Even though he had a high cultivation base, if these suicidal men of sacrifice opened two holes in these two places, even if he didn't die, he would still lose a layer of skin. Wang Sheng wanted an explanation, but Marquis Feng could not give it. The camp in the land of Thousand Despair had now become a place for the various vassal states to mass-produce experts. If the state of Feng was excluded, things would only get worse. The state of Feng was not like the state of Song, which already had hundreds of elite experts. Moreover, the state of Song also had people cultivating in the camp, so the state of Feng could not fall behind. In the end, the state of Feng would definitely blame the Song family. However, before the Song family gave an explanation, the state of Feng had to appease Wang Sheng first. A brand new protective suit that had not been tampered with at all was extremely necessary. Additionally, during the investigation, one of the blacksmiths who was found to be up to no good was interrogated. His head was kept safe and sent to Carefree City to temporarily appease Wang Sheng's displeasure. At the same time, he specially reminded the person who delivered the goods that there would be subsequent compensation and asked Mr. Wang not to misunderstand. After everything was done, Marquis Feng formally and sternly submitted a note and protest to the state of Song. Now it was two countries, no longer two big families. Even the Jianghu behavior that used to look for people to start a war had been upgraded to the level of national diplomacy. In any case, when there were still two families in the past, both sides had been fighting openly and secretly. Now that they had something on the state of Song, the state of Feng had to extort them. Otherwise, if the disciples of the state of Song in the camp were to cause trouble or die a few times, the state of Song would lose more than they gained. Naturally, the state of Feng's compensation would fall on the state of Song. The state of Feng was smart enough to cooperate with the state of Xia and the state of Gan to exert pressure. After all, the state of Song's men of sacrifice could not be blamed on the state of Feng. If the Duke of Song did not agree, the state of Feng also had men of sacrifice. Marquis Feng did not mind letting his men of sacrifice pretend to be men of sacrifice from the state of Song and ruthlessly attack the camp. He wanted to attract the hatred of all the other vassal states onto the state of Song. After all, only the state of Song had a reason to attack the camp, right? Chapter 383. To be honest, when he received Feng's stern note, High Duke Song was rather furious. He wasn't angry because Fenghua had come looking for him because of this matter. This matter was originally the Song family's fault, and it couldn't be shaken off. Although Song Honda had just come out from the land of Thousand Despair when this matter was arranged, those death warriors were indeed targeting the great elder of the Feng family. Even if it was the arrangement of the Song family's elders, as the clan leader, Song Honda couldn't shake off the responsibility. Later on, he mobilized the death warriors to assassinate Wang Sheng and destroy the camp. Song Honda had done it and accepted it, but he just couldn't stand Fenghua's attitude of kneeling down and licking Wang Sheng's boots. Was a mere third-degree realm junior worth Marquis Fenghua's effort? At this time, Songhua's big brother had selectively forgotten that he had obediently closed Songhua's camp with just one sentence from Wang Sheng. Even though he was furious, High Duke Song had to prepare a reply to Fenghua. Just as he was discussing with the ministers on how to reply, he suddenly received an unexpected piece of news. There was a historical site in the land of Thousand Despair. It was the mountain gate of a certain alchemy sect hundreds of years ago. It was said that there were a few life rejuvenation pills in it. And Baoqin Yutang had recently decided to form a team to explore this historical site. Their first choice to lead the way was Wang Sheng, the life rejuvenation pill that could bring the dead back to life. When he heard this name, Song Honda suddenly had a strong desire to have it. Based on his current situation, if he could find the life rejuvenation pill, perhaps it could give him a normal body. Even if his cultivation was crippled, as long as he could live like a normal person for a few decades. With Song Honda's great talent and bold vision, how many things could he do? Once this idea appeared, it couldn't be stopped. The more he thought about it, the more Song Honda wanted it. To a person who knew that he was going to die, the sudden appearance of a few life-saving pills was simply a heaven-sent opportunity. If he didn't grab this opportunity, wouldn't he be letting God down? The news came from a reliable channel of the Song family. Baoqin Yutang didn't do things discreetly and was found out by an undercover agent of the Song family in Baoqin Yutang. Through other channels, Song Honda also received good news. Baoqin Yutang was indeed in the midst of forming a team in preparation for an expedition. He wasn't sure of the specific destination, but from the looks of it, it was definitely related to the grounds of Thousand Despair. In addition, Baoqin Yutang had put up a mission in the Worry-Free City's Assassin Hall. Although the mission had been accepted and hidden as soon as it was posted, the Song clan spies still managed to get their hands on the details of the mission through some of the internal members of the Hall of Assassins. It was also a mission to explore a certain ruin in the land of Thousand Despair. And the one who accepted the mission was Wang Sheng. On the one hand, he could snatch the elixir to prolong his life, and on the other hand, he could take the opportunity to kill Wang Sheng. These two benefits made Marquis Song unable to suppress the idea of sending someone to follow him and then reap the benefits. Isn't it just entering the land of thousand extremities? Could it be that apart from Wang Sheng, no one else in this world could easily enter and exit the grounds of despair. The hundreds of experts of the Song clan had lived in the land of thousand despair for more than 10 years. Could it be fake? If killing Wang Sheng was a personal grudge, then obtaining the life rejuvenation pill would be a real benefit to Marquis Song. Not to mention, Song Yan's housekeeper, Song Laoyu, had recently sent back another piece of news which greatly tempted Marquis Song. Song Yan said that she had almost figured out the location of Bao Qing Yu Tang's ice cream and refined salt production workshop. She was currently thinking of ways to bribe a few key members of the workshop. As long as she obtained the techniques for refining ice cream and salt, she would immediately be able to snatch over Bao Qing Yu Tang's business. Ice cream and refined salt, No matter how much Marquis Song looked down on doing business, the income from these two businesses was enough to make him drool. Every vassal state had just been established not long ago. Which one of them wasn't using their family's wealth to build up their businesses? At the same time, they were also spending gold coins like flowing water. No matter how much they earned, it wasn't enough. The various armies, city defenses, people's livelihood, all kinds of weapons, medicinal herbs, and resources, which one of them didn't require a mountain of gold coins. The small amount of taxes and the family's wealth couldn't even make a splash when invested. If he had these two businesses, how fortunate would it be? Just thinking about it, Marquis Song suddenly felt very blessed. His daughter was indeed his daughter. Although she didn't agree with the way he treated Wang Sheng, she still quietly helped her father to strengthen the Song kingdom. Even if it was just for his daughter, Song Honda had to get the life rejuvenation pill. He had to bring the dead back to life. He had to make the Song kingdom stand above the other vassal states and become the #1 overlord. Compared to the great undertaking of hegemony, giving the Feng kingdom a little compensation to appease their anger and show weakness to the enemy was not worth mentioning at all. It was just some compensation. Give it to him. Give them 5 times the amount. 5 sets of protective equipment, 10,000 gold coins, 5 beauties. He would send them on the same day. It was enough to make Marquis Feng happy. As for Marquis Song himself, he immediately arranged for 3 experts, 1 in the 9th degree realm and 2 in the 8th degree realm, to secretly rush to Carefree City to keep an eye on Wang Sheng and his men. These 3 experts were experts who had hunted in the land of thousand extremities in the past, so they were very familiar with the way of survival in the land of thousand extremities. As long as they were allowed to quietly follow Wang Sheng and the people of Bao Qingyu Hall, they wouldn't have to worry about Wang Sheng and the people of Bao Qingyu Hall escaping. Soldiers valued quality over quantity. These 3 experts were enough to deal with most of the dangers in the land of thousand extremes. At the same time, they could solve all the problems. If there were more people, they would be easily discovered. There was no need. Don't think that just because Wang Sheng could control the man-eating ants in the land of thousand extremes, he could do whatever he wanted. It was impossible for his man-eating ant army to follow Wang Sheng all the time. Once Bao Qing Yu Tang's men found the life rejuvenation pill, it would be hard to say whose it belonged to. Song Honda's heart was burning with passion as he watched the experts he had painstakingly nurtured leave. He had finally heard a piece of good news in his busy schedule. Now he was just waiting for the results. He hoped that his body would be able to hold on until then. Compared to Marquis Song's series of plans, Marquis Feng's was obviously much weaker. When Marquis Song's intentions reached his ears, Marquis Feng and the other ministers naturally felt that this time, the combined pressure was effective. The strongest vassal states were all like this. In this way, if there were any similar disputes in the future, they could consider using the same method to suppress the other vassal states. Of course, Marquis Feng did not forget to compensate Wang Sheng. The protective suits and the heads were almost at Carefree City. If he wanted to do a favor, he had to do it in one go. So Marquis Feng did not hesitate. Didn't Marquis Song send 5 beauties? The beauties accepted all of them. Marquis Feng then sent 2 beauties to Wang Sheng's house as an apology and also as an explanation to Wang Sheng. Chapter 384. As for why they didn't send the beauties from the Song Kingdom to Wang Sheng, wasn't it obvious? When the beauties of a Song Nation were in front of Wang Sheng, they would naturally say good things about the Song Nation. Hence, if Marquis Feng wanted to gift them, he would gift them the beauties of the Feng Nation. If he was really favored, they would be a great weapon to rope in Wang Sheng. Didn't they see how the Song family used the name of Song Yan's fiancé to rope in Wang Sheng? Wang Sheng didn't know what the two countries were thinking. However, the Feng family had already paid a visit, saying that they would investigate thoroughly and compensate Wang Sheng for his losses. A new set of protective clothing was already on the way, and the head of the trader from the Feng Kingdom was also on the way. There were also other things that Wang Sheng didn't misunderstand. Although Bao Qin Yutang had accepted the mission, Bao Qin Yutang's team was still on the way. Thinking about it, the new owner didn't want the female owner to make a comeback, so they were definitely on guard. Wang Sheng even suspected that the female owner was being escorted along the way. Maybe the team that the female owner brought into the Land of Thousand Despair was to monitor whether the female owner would really enter the Land of Thousand Despair. There was still a period of time left, so Wang Sheng cultivated while waiting in Worry-Free City. Although it was called cultivation, other than some sports with or without equipment, which made the old eunuch Han Bingley seem unconventional, it was calligraphy. It was as if Wang Sheng had fallen in love with calligraphy after a night of gossip from the Shadow Eunuch. In fact, when old Eunuchly came to give Wang Sheng some pointers, Wang Sheng had already shown his love for calligraphy. Unfortunately, the Shadow Eunuch couldn't reveal his identity to meet with old Eunuchly, so he didn't see the scene of Wang Sheng's calligraphy. Naturally, he wouldn't be as proud as that day. After the Fushi transformation, Wang Sheng's calligraphy realm had improved a lot on the basis of his previous practice. According to Wang Sheng's feeling, he didn't dare to say that he could be compared with Yan Lu and Ouyang Zhao, but in this world, he was second to none in regular calligraphy. While writing, Wang Sheng pondered over the last Xing formula of the mantra of 9 secret words. To be honest, Wang Sheng knew what the Rho formula represented, but he just couldn't use it. The Xing formula represented perfection and superhuman abilities. But what was it exactly? Wang Sheng couldn't imagine it. Strictly speaking, there were too many possibilities, and he didn't know which one it was. In the various movies, animations, and literary works on Earth, there were countless superhuman abilities. As for which one it was, Wang Sheng had yet to come to a conclusion. The Feng clan's compensation had yet to reach the Carefree City, and the Song country's compensation had yet to reach the Feng country. However, the 3 experts of the Song clan had already snuck into the Carefree City. When they arrived at the Carefree City, the 3 of them immediately got to know a piece of good news. Wang Sheng's super strong guard had temporarily left Wang Sheng's side due to some trivial matters, and no one knew where he went. There was a huge possibility that the agreement between Wang Sheng and that expert had been completed, and that expert was no longer protecting Wang Sheng. Although they hadn't seen the power of Wang Sheng's super strong guard face to face, but the ability to kill 3 8th-stage realm experts in a second made everyone extremely fearful. Now that Wang Sheng actually asked that guard to leave, it was as good as crippling his own martial arts. Could there be any better news than this? The 3 experts quietly split up. They did not reveal their identities or cultivation bases. Instead, they hid themselves like ordinary cultivators who wanted to enter Carefree City's camp. Every day, one of them would be responsible for monitoring Wang Sheng's movements from afar. Thus, there was no need to worry about Wang Sheng discovering them. In order not to expose their whereabouts, the 3 Song family experts didn't even meet the Song family members in the Carefree City. Mixed in with a group of cultivators waiting for an opportunity, no one could tell that the 3 of them were super strong experts. Just as everyone was waiting, Wang Sheng didn't wait for Bao Qin Yutang's team to arrive, but he waited for the Feng family to send compensation, or rather an explanation. Is this an explanation for me? Wang Sheng looked at the 2 identical twin beauties standing in front of him, and then looked at the expert from the Feng family, who had personally sent them over. He didn't know whether to laugh or cry. A set of protective clothing. There was no problem for Wang Sheng to accept it. Ahead, Wang Sheng also understood that this was a traitor found by the Feng family. Whether or not he was the traitor, this matter was ultimately pinned on him, killing him to vent Wang Sheng's anger. Wang Sheng approved of it. But what about the two twin beauties? The Marquis said that if it wasn't for Mister's discovery, a few important officials of the Feng country might have been plotted against. The person who came explained politely, "So, this is a gift personally chosen by the Marquis. As a token of gratitude, please don't decline." After he finished speaking, he didn't wait for Wang Sheng's reply, took a few steps back, turned around, and left. Just as Wang Sheng was about to chase after him, the two twin beauties stood in front of Wang Sheng from the left and right. They rushed to Wang Sheng and bowed. "Greetings, master." One could imagine that the Marquis of Feng had thought about this gift. The pair of twin beauties were really in line with Wang Sheng's preferences. They had long legs, slender waists, and big breasts. Their body proportions were very harmonious, especially since the two beauties were warriors who had cultivated to the small success stage. They looked to be in the second realm, and their bodies were brimming with youth and vitality. Compared to the two ordinary maidservants that Bao Qing Yutang had given him, they were many times stronger. Seeing the two ladies bow with a trace of heroic spirit similar to Song Yan, Wang Sheng knew that the Marquis of Feng and the others had really put in a lot of effort. But why did he accept these two beauties? The two young beauties were kneeling in front of the door. The shadow-old eunuch and Isley were watching from the two sides of the wall, as if they were watching a monkey show. Wang Sheng could even hear them chatting about whether or not Wang Sheng would accept them. These two old, frivolous fellows. "Forget it, get up." Wang Sheng could only wave his hand for the two ladies to get up. If they wanted to accept them, then so be it. At most, he would just deal with them like the two maidservants of Bao Qing Yutang. He waved his hand for the two young maidservants who were pouting to bring them in. Wang Sheng could only shake his head helplessly. Many people saw Wang Sheng's expression. Many people were probably cursing Wang Sheng in their hearts for taking advantage of him. However, they also knew their own limits. Wang Sheng had someone giving him beauties, but they didn't even need to think about it. Many people saw it and remembered it in their hearts, thinking about when they would have the same experience. Amidst the chaos, Wang Sheng had not even warmed up to the two beauties when Bao Qing Yutang's team arrived at the Carefree City. The team of about 50 people looked like they were escorting precious goods. They entered the Bao Qing Yutang's camp as if they were facing a great enemy. Seeing this scene, the three experts of the Song family stepped out of the Carefree City without saying a word. They didn't take the route of the imperial treasury. Instead, they entered the land of thousand despair in the name of training outside the city. When Wang Sheng received the news, he also got ready. Once the female host arrived, it was time to move. You're tuning into the Warrior Lore YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.